I'm joined by Kyle Balgamase. Welcome, Kyle.
How are you?
Raja Suleiman with Orzhov.
Max McVitie.
Congratulations to Brian DeMars.
Zach Allen.
I wouldn't be here without these guys, though. So.
And the champion of Proto Counter-Attack, Arilax.
All right, welcome everybody to Making Magic Happen, brought to you by beautiful RW Hobbies and Games in Livonia, Michigan. I am Zach, and today we're continuing our budget series. If you didn't see the last video, the link will be in the description. You can go check it out. But essentially, a guy came into my store. His name's Chris Shavers. Shout out Chris. Love you, dude. He wanted to build a blue-white control deck. He opened a Jace the Mind Sculptor in Double Masters and wanted to start putting together a modern deck. I don't think he had any modern decks previous to this, but he had been playing Control in Standard for the past couple-ish years and had a decent amount of the cards, but didn't, you know, some of the cards are really expensive, like Misty Rainforest and Scalding Tarn, which a lot of the blue decks will play because it can fetch Mystic Sanctuary, but isn't critical necessarily. They're fine, but nothing critical, I'd say. So yeah, he had that, and yeah, so Double Masters had both Fatal Push and Path to Exile in it, and it's very reasonable you could have that. Eliminates a cheap uncommon. So yeah, I'm adding some stuff to the deck to try a different version, to try and keep it budget-ish. But I want to see if Esper is maybe better working around that budget. And the cards I've added here, like Drown in the Lock, Eliminate, Fatal Push, Kaya's Guile, Esper Charm, for the most part, aren't really that expensive. And we went away from Mentor. Even though I do like Mentor, we went away from it in favor of some Geists because it's a little cheaper. To make, and you know, we cut one of the Jaces, we cut the Teferi, we cut the Miracle package from the list we were playing yesterday because we wanted to add some Thought Seizes. And Thought Seizes is a card that was reprinted in Double Masters. It's kind of expensive, but it's a card that you could reasonably have, and I think a lot of decks play it, so it's not even a bad, I mean, I know a lot of decks play this card, so it's not a bad deck or a bad card to pick up anyway. And there's a reasonable chance that he already had some Thought Seizes, so we're going to add some Thought Seizes to the board, and Plague Engineer is expensive on MTGO, but it's quite cheap in paper and relatively easy to pick up in paper if that's where you want to go. So basically, I've rebuilt an Esper deck that has the same deck constraints, the same budget in mind, but I think this one actually looks pretty good to me. I'm actually pretty excited to play with it to see how good it is. I like just how generic and powerful its answers are. And I like its mana efficiency, and I think its card draw is going to be really good. So I'm going to see how this plays. I'm not positive how good it is. We're going to find out. You know what I'm going to do? I'm actually going to play the Force Sanctuary. I think Sanctuary is just so good. I'm going to go down to 2 Field Ruins just because Sanctuary does tap for blue. It's a good thing to fetch late. So I'm going to play the 4th. It might make for some awkward hands where it comes into play tapped, but we're now a more mana efficient deck, so I think we can, I think that's fine. I think we can make do with that. And we got a nice like sideboard suite of 3 Aether Gust, 1 Purge, 1 Noxious Grasp. These cards are just very efficient against the decks they're good against. We've got Thoughtseize as just a catch-all answer against anything. Anytime, if you have Thoughtseize in your board, you usually want it for specific decks, and the idea was that it's supposed to give me a leg up against control decks. All of that said, Thoughtseize is really just like, you know, if I don't like Drown in the Lock in this matchup because opponent doesn't put anything in their graveyard and they're playing Graveyard Hate or something, I can board out a Drown in the Lock and board in a Thoughtseize if nothing else makes that much sense. It's just a really great catch-all card to put in your sideboard. I don't like it in the main deck because it does cost you a decent amount of life, but I think that's fine. So what are we doing? It's basically just a bunch of spot removal and card draw. We've got Jace to brainstorm away the spot removal when it's bad. We've got Teferi, Hero of Dominaria as the main win condition. We've got the Sanctuary Cryptic Command lock going. We're still only on 2 Force Negation. I think I would play more if it wasn't budget constrained, but we are, so we have 2. We got 2 Archmage's Charm because that was the number we had. 2 Kaya's Guile, and an Esper Charm is sort of like the 3rd Archmage's Charm that just, you know, is different enough that it should still be pretty good. Still 2 Teferi. I'm gonna see how this goes, but I think overall, I like how this deck looks, and I'm curious to see how it plays out. So let's get into some battling. All right, how's this hand looking? Here for game one. Looks like we lost the die roll, but I think the hand's very good. We've got early removal if opponent has creatures. We even have the Fatal Push for like an elf, so we're not ramping them, and then the Path for the bigger thing. And eliminate if they have planeswalkers. I've got Frantic Inventory to kind of get my engine online and hit my next land drop. And then a Cryptic Command when I get to 4 to just kind of start putting the screws into the opponent's game plan by, you know, countering the spell and drawing a card. So, like the way this hand is headed. Let's see how it plays out, though. Note, we are a 4x Mystic Sanctuary deck. That is something that, you saw in the deck tech. So, in any Esper deck like this, where you also are going to put Mystic Sanctuary in, you kind of want to start every single deck with Watery Grave plus Hallowed Fountain. I would imagine that these two lands will just become Watery Grave and Hallowed Fountain. Hex Drinker, it's an interesting start. That is definitely getting pushed. Not sure what that means necessarily, but I am going to push that. Don't want to waste any time letting an opponent get that up to have protection from instants. That'd be pretty tough for my deck to handle. I don't have Sweeper's main, so the only thing I could do if they did level that up is play Kaya's Guile, which might be okay, but not ideal, I'd say. So I'd like to draw land. Definitely didn't want to draw a second Force Negation, but it's alright. So I don't know what opponent's doing here. But like I said, I want to start on Hallowed Fountain and Watery Grave. Now my mana is perfect, and I can just fetch basics and Mystic Sanctuaries essentially the rest of the game. I don't have any double white or double black spells in the main, so you can just go Watery Grave, Hallowed Fountain, Island, Island, Sanctuary, 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 whatever. Another goof. The Tarmogoyf! An opponent is missing their next land drop. We also hit our land, which is excellent. I can now Frantic Inventory and Path this turn. I'm definitely going to Path on their turn. Path is not going to get blown out by a green-red deck. They're not going to have a counterspell. Even if they were main decking something like crazy like Veil of Summer, which they probably aren't, but even if they were, Path would still answer it, so not the end of the world there. Bobble? So I have to imagine this is like a Shadow deck or a Jund deck that just kept an awkward mana hand and not like a green-red Beats deck. That just is not something I've ever really seen. So I would imagine that's not what I'm playing against. They also, like, we saw a Bobble, but they don't have Lurrus as a companion, so it's not like they're doing it to enable Lurrus. Yeah, so I don't know. But I am going to use my removal. I'm not interested in taking the hit here. Okay, and it is a Jund deck. That makes more sense to me. A Jund deck that had awkward mana. Alright, they're going to Nile Spellbomb me. They can't pay for it yet, though, so not the end of the world. And that's a Hex Drinker. That one's pretty annoying. We do have Cryptic Command to sort of answer it. Would have liked the Mana Leak here. Oh well. So what do we want to do here? I definitely want to cast the Frantic Inventory and force them to pop the Spellbomb here if they're going to do it. The nice thing about this is that, yeah, they could pop the Spellbomb there and that would be fine, but it's not the end of the world for us if they do. So I'm going to need to get another island at some point. And this could be a Mystic Sanctuary if I draw another island, but I'd rather just get my third blue into play here in case of Cryptic, or so that I can use Cryptic next turn. I can Mana Leak this play and use Cryptic the next turn. There is a real chance that they just level up Hex Drinker here. I could definitely see that happening. Yep, and that looks like what they're going to do. So now we're going to have to find a Kaya's Guile. We do have Cryptic as like a tapped for a little bit, but Kaya's Guile is going to answer this, so that is good. That's good for us. And given that we didn't have to use anything here, I do think it's probably good to just get a Hallowed Fountain so that I'm not drawing Hallowed Fountain later. Basic Island doesn't seem like it does that much for me. Yep. Okay. Opt is a decent draw here. It's going to help me find this Kaya's Guile that we are kind of in desperate need of at this point. Again, we can just Cryptic tap, and we'll be able to do that for a decent amount of time. I actually think I may have made a mistake here, not force negating the Spellbomb. But okay, they popped it ahead of time, so that's fine. It's fine. They didn't save it to really blow us out on anything. Given that I was going to Frantic Inventory, though, and it doesn't feel like they're doing a ton of non-creature stuff. I probably should have force negated ahead of time, I would guess. We'll see, though. That might have been a mistake on my part. Alright, they're just going all in on this Hex Drinker, which makes some sense to me. A little bit crazy, but does make some sense. Okay. So I'm going to go to beginning of combat. I'm just going to tap draw and just put myself in a spot where I can just try and find this Kaya's Guile. And Cryptic's a good draw here, so I will be able to Mystic Sanctuary back my Cryptic, put it on top, sure. Yes. And then I can opt into it if I need to. I don't necessarily need to yet, though. I can also just wait and see what opponent plays this turn. Kroxa. You know, I don't really like Kroxa all that much. I'm going to let Kroxa resolve, though. I don't take the damage from it, so it's not the end of the world here. And if I'd rather counter it on the second cast, if that makes sense. I'm going to pitch a Force of Negation here. That card's not doing anything against what opponent's done so far. And I can still just hardcast this one if I need to. Note this is a 6/6 at the moment. How do I feel about that? I think I'm supposed to just Mana Leak this one. I think that's what I'm supposed to do. I still have Force of Negation if opponent has like a Bolt here. They can't hardcast the other Kroxa. I think this is okay. This certainly could punish me, but I think this is fine. I also could have just discarded the Mana Leak. That would have been fine. Or this other Force. That also would have been fine. But either way, not really the end of the world here. And I'm going to 4 against a deck that looks like it has Burn, which isn't great, but again, we have a pretty nice answer to all of this in Kaya's Guile. Well, that's going to make Kaya's Guile a little tougher to use, but we're kind of on the tap plan now anyway, so not the end of the world, I would say. Alright, beginning of combat. Let's tap all creatures, draw a card. Opponent is bolting me. Sure. Now they're bolting me. Well, now I am forced into Force of Negationing. No choice here, but note they can't bring back Kroxa this turn, so this is just their turn. I'm going to need to draw something here, though. Because Kroxa is coming back next turn and will do 3 to me. Yeah, okay, I'm dead. The Hex Drinker ended up being a problem. Opponent just brought a lot of threats, and it was too much. That said, post-board we get a lot of good tools, so not super concerned about any of this. Force Negation can get out of here. Aether Gust seemed quite good. Celestial Purge seemed good. Noxious Grass seems good. Verdict seems good. Kaya actually seems okay. I can do away with Esper Charm. I can see Teferi Time Reveler. This is not a very important matchup for that card. I could cut Frantic Inventories, but when I'm going this heavy on, like, counter magic, I'd rather not. I'd rather have more counter draw, or just, like, one-for-one trading cards. I'd rather have more card draw, so I'm not going to cut Frantic Inventories. I do think Drown in the Lock is a fine one to cut, although I do like it. I think I'm going to cut Mana Leak, actually. And I think the last one is between the 4th Cryptic or the 3rd Cryptic or the 3rd Teferi. Which one would I rather cut? Probably the Cryptic. Cryptic's fine, but Teferi's gonna be better. And really, you saw the issue there was that I never found card draw. I got to draw 2 off Frantic Inventory, but I just kind of one-for-one a bunch and then died to the last threat they had in play because I never got a Teferi online. And this deck is going to rely on Teferi quite a bit, but this hand here is excellent. This hand here is just very, very good. I do think, given that I'm on the play, I'm going to go with the, like, tapped plan where I'm, like, you know, fetch a tapped Hallowed Fountain, fetch a tapped Watery Grave, opt on my turn 2. Just save life. No reason to get crazy. And really all I want to do is look for lands at this point. That's what I'm doing here, is looking for some lands. Inquisition, sure. Probably taking my Path to Exile. I can see them taking my Opt just because this hand is just missing lands and it's very, very good after that. It's also a world where they take Kaya's Guile. Yeah, okay, Kaya's Guile makes sense. They are a Cruxa deck, so it does make sense for them to want to protect their graveyard. But I'm not missing it. If it goes from my graveyard, I can sank it back later, so no big deal. Alright, now we can push a thing and opt this turn. I would shock to push here over pathing a threat. If they played like a Tarmogoyf for a Grim Flayer, I will definitely push it. And I think they're incentivized to do that because they think my only removal spell this turn is Path. So they think I'm going to path their thing, and that lets them ramp into 2 threats next turn. But as it happens, I drew the push, which is just absolutely great. So they did go into that. The question is, do I want to opt before I fetch or after? And the reason you do it before is because you have more lands in your deck, so you're more likely to find one to draw. The reason you do it after is because you'd want to keep the thing you bottomed on bottom and not have it get shuffled into your deck. I think given that the thing I want is lands, I'm supposed to opt before I fetch. And Mystic Sanctuary is a little awkward, but it's still a keep. It's still a land. If I draw another island before I play it, that'll be great. If not, I can still make plays next turn and just put it into play tapped. That'll all be fine. I could also save 2 life here and just get it tapped. And you know what I think I'm going to? I don't have any plays lined up next turn anyway. And just untapping and pushing is just totally reasonable to me, I think. And we drew the island, so perfect. It's even the double white or the second white source for Supreme Verdict. So that was just probably the best draw in my deck. Probably the best draw in my deck. Yep. And now I can put Kaya's Guile back on top if I need it. I can... There's a lot of things I could do here. I could put an opt back on top to try and hit the land for Teferi. I don't think I'd want to do opt. We'll have to see what I do draw. Well, that's awkward. Goodbye, Teferi. We knew thee well. We knew thee well. They took my Supreme Verdict. Really? I must say I am stunned by that. I am very, very stunned by that. So now the question is, do I want to Sanctuary anything? It really depends on my draw. If I draw a land, I definitely do. Well, I drew a Sanctuary, so I definitely do. And I think I'm going to Sanctuary back. I mean, if they took Verdict, Verdict's probably good, but I think I like just getting a push here. This deck has a bunch of cheap stuff in it, so I think push is totally fine. It feels like they're a really low to the ground aggro deck, so happy to have a push. And if they do something like play a Hex Drinker and start pumping it up, I can path it. But I also have the option of just putting Kaya's Guile back on top of my deck and doing that. Alright, well, that's going to get pushed pretty easy. I am still mind blown they didn't take Teferi. That just seems so wrong to me. Maybe they just figured they couldn't beat it anyway, but that just seems incredibly wrong to me. Maybe they have a way to kill Teferi? I don't know. They could also be sitting on a Boil, which would be absolutely horrendous for us. But... Or they just have 2 bolts for Teferi. I guess that makes sense. I still really don't like this from the opponent's part. I just have much better draws than them. I already have Tarmogoyf answered. I have their next 2 threats answered, in fact. Yeah, I really didn't like this play from the opponent. I would have just taken Teferi and just used the bolts on my life total. I was supposed to stop in my end step there so I didn't get blown out by Veil of Summer. So that's pretty awkward. And I do think I could get blown out by Veil of Summer here, which really stinks. But they might not have it. And I am going to push. Alright, they didn't have it. And they just drew a land. Okay. And we drew a Jace the Mind Sculptor. Hello, Jace. Hello, Jace. Okay, so we've seen Bolt from our opponent, and they definitely left it in. They might have a third. If that's the case, I just want to protect Jace. I don't need the cards yet. I already have Path to stop like a haste threat. No, I actually want them to draw a Hex Drinker and level it up. I would like them to spend their turn doing that because I just already have the answer for it. Just absolutely no reason not to let me, or not, for me not to let them draw that. Okay. Sure. Gonna keep leveling? Sure. This only has protection from instants at level 3. So I could Jace bounce it if I wanted to, but I don't really want to do that. I'm just gonna start brainstorming. I'd like to hit some land drops here. All right, there's a land drop. Nice, take it. I think I'm gonna put Frantic. I'm gonna go Opt Island. I'm gonna cast the Frantic Inventory main phase. Play this, and then Kaya's Guile the opponent. I should probably exile their graveyard too, just because we saw Cruxa, so I can at least stop it from coming back. I don't really need the life. I'm at 18. The 4 life is fine. Like, I would take it, but I don't really need it. And I'd rather just make Cruxa not like an amazing draw where they don't get to like play Cruxa, make me discard, flash it back. I don't have to path it. Like, it would just cost, it's just more cards than I want to have to deal with. Okay, I will path this one. You can only level up as a sorcery. So I'm going to let them level up twice. Sure. I'll let them level up twice and then path. I'm pretty sure you can only level up as a sorcery. I believe that's the case. I'm like 99% sure. Okay, that was the case. Yep. So now we're in a really good spot where even if they have something crazy like Boil or Choke, we just have the counterspell lined up. Oh, and they had the Bolt. So the Jace Plus play was just absolutely excellent. I just played that perfectly. And it feels like they've been holding it for quite some time, too, for being honest. Okay, so here's an interesting little scenario. You have a Brainstorm. Would you rather opt to clear a card or opt before you Brainstorm to get a card deeper? I am generally of the opinion you want to opt before Brainstorming to get a card deeper. Yeah, I'm going to bottom that. Okay, Eliminate's a fine draw. We'll take an Eliminate. I could plus here again. But yeah, I don't really think I need to. I like putting Gust and Eliminate on top. So I have a Fatal Push and a Counterspell. They have no cards. So basically just I'm going to counter something if it really matters. If it's just a creature, I'll Fatal Push it. The opponent doesn't have a lot of great draws here. They would need something crazy. Like an uncounterable. I just don't even know. Okay, so given that they're going to get to take this, I do think it's right to just draw 2 instead. Their turn is just Inquisition me, so I'd rather just get some value here. Let them choose one of my removal spells. It doesn't matter which. They're definitely going to take Aether Gust because it's the one that can stop spells, whereas these just stop creatures. But, yeah. Rather just get the 2 for 1 there and then just keep Jace going. We'll find another thing to answer the potential Boil in the future. Ooh, Kaya's quite nice here. Let's get her in play. I'm definitely going to put land and then, I guess, Purge on top. Opponent knows the other 2. But, yeah, it seems fine to me. So we'll go like this. Get Kaya in play. Start exiling the stuff. Yes, 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 yes. Oh, man, I love Kaya Orzhov Usurper. Love that card. For those that don't know, I have actually gotten 2nd place in a Star City Games Open that had like 1,000 people in it playing Kaya Orzhov Usurper in Modern. I did that. It was in my main deck. Assassin's Trophy Jace. That's rude. Goodbye Purge and other land. I'm going to get the Plains because of Boil here. If they Boil me, I at least have 3 lands afterwards. I don't need more islands. I have 6 blue sources already. And I think opponent... well, we drew Cryptic, so this game is now over. So, yep. No big deal. I don't think opponent can reasonably draw anything at this point that would keep them in this game. And Fetch Land certainly isn't it. That is definitely not the thing. And so now we're just looking for card draw, but we got a bunch of good draws. land gets us like an op to look for a Jace. We have a Frantic Inventory in our graveyard, so the second one, any one of those would draw 2 now. How many cards does opponent own in exile? 14? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Oh, well, I missed this. We just had lethal. Goodbye, opponent. And Dome you for 14. Hello. Kaya's pretty good as a win con, it turns out. The Kaya, yeah, Poto goes, the Kaya kill is so sweet. I agree, Tubby Batman. I agree. I am in love with Kaya kills. That is nice. So the question now we need to ask ourselves is, do we want Plague Engineer? We saw Bolts, so we probably don't. But Plague Engineer is pretty good. It can kill a Hex Drinker that they, haven't leveled up yet. It just trades off with a Tarmogoyf because it has Death Touch. I think there's a real argument to bringing in Plague Engineer here. I could see it. But we have so much removal, I just don't think it's necessary. And they're not, if they had like 2 things that were the same, I think I would. But yeah, Goyf, Hex Drinker, Grim Flayer. We haven't seen Shadow, but yeah, none of those share a card type. So, yep, not gonna do that. But I think you could, and it would be okay. I think you could do that, and it would be okay. Certainly. But Kaya's really good against Hex Drinker, as it turns out. I can just exile that thing. He's got to get up to 8 before it's protected from Kaya. So, not super scared. I also just have the Noxious Grasp for it, so that's just going to be fine. I am going to shock myself here. I do want to start opting. I want to start looking for other stuff to do here. Would like to have a nice a third land here so I can play Kaya on 3. I think that would be pretty good. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. I'm definitely going to be opting. The question is going to really become, do I Noxious Grasp next turn? And I don't know. We're going to find out based on how their play goes and what our opt shows us. But, yeah, ideally, I'd like to find either another island off the opt or a Fatal Push. Those are the 2 cards I think I'd like the most here. But I would definitely take a Supreme Verdict. Yeah, I would definitely take a Supreme Verdict. I mean, there's a lot of good draws. All my deck is spot removal, essentially. So basically everything's a good draw. It's kind of where we're at. If opponent doesn't play a creature here, I can see a world where I play the Sanctuary next turn just so I can play the Kaya. I imagine they are playing a creature here, though. I think that's going to happen for sure. And it is a Grim Flayer. Okay. So, almost certainly going to Noxious Grasp the Grim Flayer so that Kaya can deal with this. And we hit a land. I'll take a land. I said I was happy with the land, so I'll definitely take it. Oh, Teferi's another good draw. So, yeah, this hand's really coming together. The question is, do I want to shock? Do I want to just, like, fetch an island here? I don't want to fetch a Watery Grave because I would like to shock here. So I think I'm going to shock in the Godless Shrine and Noxious Grasp the Grim Flayer. And I'm definitely going to do that before I play, before I let them untap because of Veil of Summer. I could wait and maybe try and trick them into doing something, but there's just not a reason. A Veil of Summer there would be really bad. It'd let them get some scries in. There's just not a reason for me to do that. And I think that's a really good example of don't let the instant speed nature of your card trick you when playing it at sorcery speed is just better. And that's something a lot of people struggle with because they see instant and they think wait till the last possible moment, get as much information as you can, but it's not always right. They got a mountain, so I'm assuming a Goyf here maybe? Maybe a Cruxa? Ooh, a Renin 6. Well, Renin 6 isn't particularly good here, actually. If we're being honest. It's not going to answer my Kaya. Ooh, and we drew a Delta. Delta's very nice. So I have enough white, so I think Delta, because I might want to get Swamp, I think Delta is better to have in hand still than Strand. So I'm just going to get Island. And let's put Kaya in play and eat this Hex Drinker, please. 1 Hex Drinker. Yes. Yes. I would like a Hex Drinker. And now Ren can hit Kaya, but now I can, like, if he wants to keep pinging me, I'm going to be able to just start eating the graveyard. And we already have an answer to Ren and Noxious Grasp, so this Mystic Sanctuary will find us an answer. Of course, we can also just Teferi minus on Ren. A lot of ways to get rid of it. It's not as scary. Against Blue-White, Ren feels almost unbeatable because you just don't have answers to it, but we've got Noxious Grasp, we've got Celestial Purge, we've got Aether Gust, we have Eliminate. Ren is is good still. It's going to draw opponent, you know, a card in this scenario. I guess kind of 2 cards because they get back the Peat land, but again, not the end of the world. A Tarmogoyf. Hello, Tarmogoyf. Hello. Okay, so what do I want to do here? Definitely going to just exile the Grimflayer and the Bobble. Keep opponent further away from Delirium. Shrink the Tarmogoyf. And I do think I'm supposed to... Again, I'm going to fetch with Strand over Delta because I'm more likely to want to swamp at this point. But this is just going to get Island because I want this Sanctuary to be on next turn. Yep, I'm just going to get a basic Island, still preserve my life. I'm going to play Jason, bounce the Goof. I'm going to send Goof back to the hand. An opponent is getting value off their Wrenn, sure. And that's fine, though, because realistically what's happening is I'm just getting ahead on mana at this point. And they're, like, kind of double stone rating themselves every turn to draw a card with Wrenn, which is good from the opponent's perspective. They're going to need these cards to keep up with me, but it's not great. It's, in fact, somewhat awkward. And Klothys is not very good here. I can really stop it from doing that. Like, Kaya is actually very good against Klothys. So I'm not super concerned about it. Additionally, Jace is going to, you know, let me kind of keep doing my thing here. Opponent letting me untap, I think, is a little loose at best. Okay, so I do want to draw Noxious Grasp, and I am going to kill Wrenn with it. Or, yeah, I'm going to kill Wrenn with it, I think. I do think that's the case. The question is, what do I want to do this turn? I think I kind of like plussing with Jace just to make sure it doesn't die. But given that I can kill Wrenn, I should probably just Brainstorm. Ooh, this was kind of an awkward draw here. Well, I am still going to get Teferi in play, though. I think this is pretty easy. I definitely should have thought about... no, I couldn't have played... I needed to put the Noxious Grasp on top, so I think the Jace play was fine. Okay, so what happens with this is it says at the beginning of your pre-combat main phase. So essentially right as they draw, this goes on the stack. Then they have to target something in my graveyard. Then I'm going to Noxious Grasp Wrenn so that I can save the Noxious Grasp for the Mystic Sanctuary I'm drawing. That's my play pattern here. I think it's pretty easy. Just want to keep my... I would like to keep the Noxious Grasp because it's so good against the opponent. It's going to kill the Goyf. It's going to kill Wrenn. The only thing I don't have answered is Klothys, but honestly, Klothys just isn't very good against me anyway, so it's not a big deal. Klothys is okay, but Kaya can just turn it off, so not super concerned about it. Yep. Stop him from getting value off Wrenn. They might have something like a Bloodbraid Elf here. I could see it, but it's really not the end of the world. I guess it kills Jace. Yeah, and the Inquisition here, sure, you get my opt. I'm kind of flooding, but my value's right here, not right here. So I don't really think opponent has... I think opponent might be too far gone in this game to really have a shot. That would be my guess. If they have a good way to kill my stuff, then yeah, maybe. But yeah, I just think it's going to be pretty unlikely. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm drawing the Mystic Sanctuary. I think it's a pretty easy play here. I want to draw this Noxious Grasp. I think it's a pretty easy play here to Brainstorm first, put 2 lands back, get 3 fresh cards, then fetch to clear, then fetch the Sanctuary I'm putting back, put Noxious Grasp on top, then plus Teferi. So that's going to be my plan here. And yeah, oh, and we just drew a ton of removal anyway, so that's perfect. Yep. I think that's just very easy. You know, given that I drew 2 removal spells anyway, there's just not really a huge reason to get the Noxious Grasp. Sure, I'll lose it, and it's going to be, you know, it stinks to lose, but I have Eliminate to still answer most of the things, so I think this is fine. Then I'll eliminate that. I could even tuck Clothis here, honestly. I think that would also be a pretty fine play. Also with Kaya, you want to be... Like, if I have 2 creatures here, I don't want to exile both creatures. I want to exile 1 creature and 1 other spell. And I think nah, I should just keep getting cards. Clothis just doesn't matter that much. I have Kaya gaining me life. Yeah. Oh. Yeah, I have Kaya gaining me life, so... I'd rather just get cards, get deeper in my library, not expose my hand to something like 2 bolts. Or both my value engines to something like 2 bolts. Yep, opponent's gonna get my Noxious Grasp there. Not really concerned about it. It's fine, but in the world, is this a Bloodbraid? Spawn of Mayhem. What? Was not expecting that. Well, I guess Fatal Push can kill that, but my removal spells aren't particularly good against that. I think this is the same thing. Because I have access to a Mystic Sanctuary, I want to start with Jace Brainstorm. Okay, this ended up great. I would like the Plains again because just keeping Boil in mind. I will get the Mystic Sanctuary this time. And this plays pattern is actually pretty nice because now Fatal Push has Revolt triggered from the fetch to get Mystic Sanctuary. So I really do like... I like how this plays, that Sanctuary like turns on Revolt anyway. That's a nice little combination there. I'm going to do this now so that I don't lose Revolt. And then, again, exile the Spawn and the Inquisition. Let's gain some life back. Yep. And, I guess I can Frantic here. There's just really not a reason to. I already have 7 mana, so I can cast all of these spells anyway. And Franticking exposes it to Clothis, which is there's just not a reason to do that from my perspective. And at some point we're going to be able to answer Clothis. I can Teferi tuck it anytime I want to, essentially. I'm drawing to Purge and Aether Gust, both pseudo answer it. Not particularly concerned about really anything from that perspective. Playing another Spawn of Mayhem, sure. Don't think that card's particularly good against me. Sacking Peatland, okay, that makes sense. Playing a tap land, sure. So this might be a turn where I get Clothis off the table just to stop it from dealing damage to me. But let's see what I draw off these Frantic inventories first. Okay. So I do think I'm going to path the Spawn. I also have a ton of life built up right now. Opponent has 9 cards exiled. I'm probably supposed to tuck this turn. Oh my gosh, that's so many cards. Well, let's start the turn with a draw 3, shall we? Oh, there is the answer to Clothis. Goodbye, Clothies. Exile. And I'm going to start plussing Jace now. Might as well just stop opponent from drawing something crazy. I don't know what they could draw, but I'm going to stop them from drawing something crazy. Bobble. Sure. Nah, I think I'd rather have them get stuff in their graveyard, honestly, just so I can keep exiling stuff with Kaya. And we'll plus Teferi. I'm just going to leave up Archmage's Charm for literally the rest of the game. Absolutely no reason to take it down anymore. I don't want to expose myself to a Boil, which I think I would still beat, but is definitely the only way I could lose. Next turn I can ult Teferi and start brainstorming with Jace, which, if you don't know, is kind of a combo. Kind of a combo. Little bit of a combo. That eats very many cards from the opponent, as it turns out. Thoughtseize me. Sure. I could counter this, but my hand is so redundant that Thoughtseize just doesn't actually do anything. And, yeah. So they're going to take my Archmage Charm, which makes sense, but they need another follow-up here that gets through this counterspell. Well, Cruxa just really isn't it. That's fine. Cruxa is not the thing you were looking for, opponent. I was going to say, they just conceded from the game. Sure. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Alright, Esper looking pretty good. I mean, I guess you would want to play against the creature deck anyway, but this deck looks like it... I mean, it's not like this is not a tier 1 modern deck, don't get me wrong, but it doesn't look like a bad deck. It's playing some good cards. Renin 6, Tarmogoyf, Thoughtseize, Clothes, Bauble, and just any of these decks like this. Those are all cards you see a lot of success with. Bolt, obviously. The Grim Flayers and the Hex Drinkers are a little weird, but that's more... It's not like opponents playing like a budget deck. Renin 6 is insanely expensive online. It's more of like they're trying out a brew, kind of like we're doing. And again, it looked decent. I just think that's the type of matchup that this deck really wants to play against. One where all the cheap spot removal is really good. And it was really good there. Alright, we're here for round 2. I have won the die roll, which is good. This deck likes to be on the play. We've got somewhat of a sketchy hand where our colors are missing, but we've got a cantrip to find the next thing. We've got interaction and force and a path if they're playing creatures. So I do think this is a keep, even though it is somewhat of an awkward hand. But we're one Godless Shrine away from being able to cast all our spells. And any of our fetch lands is going to hit that. So 9 things. And okay, opponent has unclaimed territory naming Elemental. I am not going to let them have an Aether Vial. It's very unlikely that that Force Negation is going to be live against an Aether Vial deck anyway. So I think it's an easy spot there to just Force Negation the Aether Vial, pitch the 5-drop, which we're nowhere near casting. Teferi would be good later in the game, but we have more copies of him. It's not going to hurt us to get rid of that one now. Alright, second field is not ideal, but it at least allows us to start cracking them so that I'll be able to Path Exile next turn if I need to. This turn we are going to Frantic Inventory. That's just going to happen. Elemental is an interesting one. Okay, they have another Vial, which is probably good for the opponent, but it's not the end of the world by any means. Okay, they have 2 Vials, so they just kept a 3-Vial hand. Okay. So, Teferi would be good against Vial, generally. But not the best here. That said... Wow, that's... This has been a very awkward draw. I do want to start cracking Field of Ruins, and I will probably path anything that comes into play here. I would definitely path the Risen Reef as bad as it would feel. Just because an elemental deck that has access to Risen Reef is bad news for us. But, yeah, not the end of the world. I would love to be able to get basic islands, but this has just been drawing the wrong lands. That said, we're still hitting our land drops, so it's definitely not the end of the world. I guess there's a real chance I was supposed to pitch this to Teferi, given how this game has progressed, but I still kind of like where we're at. I get to Field of Ruin something, path their play, and then bounce a Vial and steal a Vial on the turn after that. Fulminator Mage here would stink if that's what they're casting. Oh, Lightning Skelemental. Well, that's actually fine. We will path that. This is a deck that can't be playing too many basics just based on how crazy their mana base is. So the field and path combo is going to be generally pretty free. Like, the first one's going to give them a basic land, certainly. But then after that, it really won't. So I think this is fine. Maybe they have 2 basics. It's very unlikely they have 3 or 4. So they might get a basic here, and then they just almost certainly won't be getting more basic. Yeah, okay. So they only have 1 basic. So this field is actually just Strip Mine, which could be good. I mean, I might want to go there. I'm thinking that I don't, though. And instead, I'd rather just get Teferi and play this turn and be able to bounce a Vial. Vial's not great for us. So stealing it's not, like, amazing, but given that we have a Strip Mine, it could still be pretty good. I definitely want to bounce this Vial, though. Oh. Alright. And Drown. Drown doesn't kill everything here, but I still think it's good. Another Lightning Skelemental this turn would be pretty annoying. Not gonna lie. They have a second. That would be pretty painful for us. But after this turn... Okay, this feels like a Risen Reef to me. Which is fine. You don't love to play against Risen Reef with what I have here, but certainly not the end of the world. Ugh. Yeah, Thunderkin Awakener, quite annoying. This card has gotten them so much value. Cavern, turn off the counters. I hope they don't have a one-man elemental. Alright, it doesn't look like they do. That said, we have Plague Engineer in our sideboard, which is insane. They have a lot of X1 elementals and probably not that many ways to kill it. So that card's going to be just absolutely amazing if we get there. Okay, the Vial's coming back. Sure. Makes some sense. So I'm going to get a tapped Watery Grave here. Alright, so decision time. What do I want to do this turn? I definitely want to Field of Ruin the Cavern of Souls. Pretty interested in that. I would love to be able to kill this Risen Reef if I could. That said, it does not look like I'm going to be able to do that. And I should probably go towards killing... Yeah, I think I'm going to Field of Ruin the Cavern of Souls. I'm going to get Island so that I can Mystic Sanctuary back Path. I'm going to have to Path this Risen Reef. That's going to happen. I can't do it this turn, which is unfortunate, but just still fine. And if they play something that goes to the graveyard, I can Drown in the Lock, kill the thing. But, yeah, this Risen Reef is a problem. I'm really hoping that they have to cast their Elemental this turn so that I can counter it. That would be quite nice. I feel like that probably won't be the case, but that is kind of what we're hoping for. Okay, they are casting it. That actually ends up being pretty good for us. It does seem like they're going to have Flicker Wisp. That I do not like. It does seem like they're going to have another thing to put in here, and they do, which is annoying. Fulminator Mage, huh? Well, this is probably going to hit our Black Source and make this Drown uncastable, which is really annoying. But, opponent only has 2 cards in hand, and we're going to be able to answer the Risen Reef. So, I kind of like where we're at. Oh my gosh, they get to bring back... That goes by toughness? Ugh. I guess I was supposed to kill this and let the Flicker Wisp resolve? Man, this is tough. Well, it still looks like Plague Engineer is going to be absolutely ridiculous. I think, given that we pitched the wrong Teferi earlier, we are now going to lose this game. But if we can find a Teferi, we can get our way out. We can find our way out of this. Opponent's just gotten a lot of value. Them having 3 Aether Vials has been very brutal. I think we could have easily won if they had less Aether Vials, but yeah, you know, when you force negation the first Aether Vial, you're really hoping they don't have a second. It turned out they had a third, and this Teferi was kind of garbage, so I think we really screwed up there, and that's cost us this game. I think we could have won otherwise, but yeah, it is what it is. Yep. Oh, man. That Fulminator Mage is also brutal. If I had another Black Source, I'd be able to kill both things in play, and I think I'd have a good shot. But as it is, I think I'm done here. The Risen Reef was just too good against us. And Risen Reef is the type of card that really punishes control, so that is pretty annoying. That said, we got a lot of really good tools. Aether Gust is quite good. Noxious Grasp is good, although not insane. Plague Engineer is ridiculous. Supreme Verdict is very good. All the counterspells are mostly just terrible, so I'm going to cut basically all of them. I could be convinced bringing in Thoughtseize is good. I don't hate Kaya. We saw they have Graveyard Synergies and it exiles Aether Vial. This Teferi seems pretty bad. Archmage's Charm is just okay. It's card draw though, so I think that's fine. The question is, do I want Thoughtseize over something like Drown in the Lock? It's probably better than Drown. Drown's okay, but not spectacular. I could also see cutting an Esper Charm, but yeah, I could cut an Esper Charm. I could get behind that. I think I'm going to cut an Esper Charm. Esper Charm's alright. It's not bad. Now, you know what? Let's cut a Kaya's Guile. Kaya's Guile's okay, but we have just better... We've brought in, just a number of better removal spells. I also could bring in Purge. I probably should have Purge in the deck, honestly. It's probably better than this Kaya's Guile, too. I do like having a Kaya's Guile as a way to gain some life, though, so it's pretty good. Alright, well, this hand has black mana and a Plague Engineer, so I'm just... No world I'm ever mulliganing this. No World. I get to start on Thoughtseize too, to really put opponent in a tough spot. And yeah, Plague Engineer, I mean, they maybe have a couple answers in their deck to it, but not very many, and this thing sticking in play is going to be bad news for opponent. Bad news for the opponent. Risen Reef, cantrip still, but yeah, Thunderkin Awakener just kind of stops working. Yeah, it's bad news for opponent. Thunderkin Awakener mostly stops working. Flickerwisp doesn't exist in play. Lightning Skelemental doesn't really do anything. Yeah, it's just, this is going to be really bad news for the opponent. I am going to get Godless Shrine here. I could get Swamp and just not expose myself to Fulminator, but I'd rather just have all my colors. Ops could smooth those things out, but again, just rather get the good colors in. I'm not really concerned about getting Mystic Sanctuary going. This is the whole game plan. It's just getting this in play and protecting it. So that's what I'm going to do. It might have also been right to go Island Opt, then Fetch and Thoughtseize, because then I can go Opt and then Opt plus Thoughtseize the next turn. I would buy that, but given the presence of Aether Vial, I think it's better to Thoughtseize on turn 1. I can also get Watery Grave to then be able to double Opt next turn. I think that's also reasonable. It is better with Mystic Sanctuary. And I also have Field of Ruin as white. Maybe Watery Grave just is the play here. Yeah, you know what? I think I've talked myself into it just because of Opt. I'm going to be able to find a white source, and I already have one if I really need it. I think Watery Grave is better. It's going to work better with Sanctuary. I can still cast my whole hand if I get it. Yeah, I think this is actually a Watery Grave. Opponent is really tanking on my fetch. I think they just don't realize they have priority. Would be the guess I would make. All right, opponent, come on. Come on. Make a play, please. All right, they've done it. Very good. So now I get to double Opt next turn in all likelihood, although I guess we could draw something different. Wow. Opponent kept a very sketchy hand. I think I still just want to take one of the Aether Vials. They don't have any way to answer my Plague Engineer. This is the next one. What does this do? Toughness less than Thunderkin. So Thunderkin doesn't even do anything with a Plague Engineer in play. I think I'm still just... This is a 1-1. I think I'm still just taking Aether Vial. Opponent's hand is so bad against Plague Engineer. Just unreasonably bad against Plague Engineer. Opponent did have 2 Aether Vials again, which is kind of annoying, but it is what it is. Okay, well now I'm really glad I got the Watery Grave. I guess I should opt during my turn because of the presence of Thoughtseize in my deck. We saw the Relic, so I'm not super hyped about this Frantic Inventory. It's not bad against it, but it's really just a redraw, so it's kind of the same thing as just, yeah, doing that. And I'm going to bluff like I have a Fatal Push here or something along those lines, but obviously I don't, but I'm, still just want to use my mana. But, once I tap to opt, I can't do anything else on my turn anyway. I don't have Force Negation in my deck, so I don't have free spells, so yeah, it's just going to be better to just opt on their turn. Okay, they put the Relic in play. That's fine. Not super concerned about it. Not super concerned about it. I think what's going to happen is they're just going to have to pop the Relic really quick and just look for anything that answers... basically, they're going to have to look for anything that answers Plague Engineer because their deck just does not function with this in play. I will top the Hallowed Fountain just so I can get white mana. We were saying I wanted white mana, and now I have it, so that's perfect. Do I want to play Field of Ruin here, or do I just want to shock? I think I'd rather not show them I have Field of Ruin, so I think I'm just going to shock. The 2-life could certainly matter, but just given what I know, I think this is just totally fine. And yeah, this is... Plague Engineer has been a really big problem for tribal decks in Legacy. There haven't been very many tribal decks in Modern, and it's possible this is the reason why, It's really kind of just been humans and spirits, and they've both kind of disappeared. You don't see this card a ton. I guess there's goblins. I guess as goblins guy, there's a bunch of goblins, but yeah, actually goblins is really bad against this card too. So maybe it's just time for more Plague Engineer. This is a very, very strong card. Static -1/-1. Oh, I hope you're not putting in the Flamekin Harbinger. Oh, okay. I guess it lets them tutor, so maybe they're gonna get like an Omnath here or something. I guess I could see that. Maybe Incandescent Soulstroke? What is that? It's a 2/2? Oh, it's a Lord. They got a Lord. So that makes sense, so that things can survive. That does make sense. I don't think it's going to be enough, but it makes sense that they would get that. All right, goodbye, Opt. Goodbye, Opt. Okay, so I actually can put Thoughtseize on top of my library, which I think is definitely the play here, because it's going to force them to pop the relic now, and then I get to leave my Frantic Inventory in the yard, which is what I want to do anyway. And if they don't, I can Thoughtseize away their things that kind of matter. Yep, alright, perfect. So we baited them into doing that and letting me have my Frantic Inventory, which is just absolutely what I wanted to begin with. I'm going to opt to see if I can hit a Planeswalker here. Oh, well, Teferi's too good to pass up. Definitely not going to pass up on that. Definitely not passing up on Teferi. I do want to be able to block here. There's certainly a world where I want to be able to block. Thunderkin Awakener. Interesting. Don't really think that was great. I guess they can just cast the Incandescent Soulstroke here, or Soulstroke. What? Oh, this thing costs 3. That makes more sense now. There's another one? I was gonna say, Lightning Skelemental's double black. I think. Oh no, it's double red. So they... I guess they're... Oh, they're Risen Reefing. Fair enough. I'm going to Frantic Inventory in response in case I hit a Path to Exile, and then Path to Exile of this would be ridiculous. Okay, we didn't, but that's fine. Okay. So this is gone, this is gone, this is gone, this is gone. These are gone. So I know opponent has Lightning Skelemental and 2 cards I don't know. I would like to draw anything that does anything. Nothing in my hand so far is anything that's done anything, so that's annoying. Certainly. I could opt. I could get back Mystic Sanctuary and opt, and I think that's probably the play. Yeah. Really looking for a kill spell here. Or a Verdict. Verdict would also be very good. Still not attacking. It's not necessary. I'm going to untap these 2 lands. It's not clear which one I should cast Opt off of. I could have a bunch of things here. It's like I could have either... I could hit either Fatal Push or Path, and I don't know which one I'm more likely to hit. I mean... I know that I'm exactly as likely to hit either because I have 3 copies of both. So it's kind of just a guessing game on which land I want to tap for this, which is unfortunate, but it is where we're at. Gosh, Unsettled Mariner too. Opponent just... This Incandescent Soulstroke, just the actual perfect counterplan, I guess. Man, it's frustrating too because I am 1 kill spell away from killing this one kill spell on this Incandescent Soulstroke just, like, kind of ruins opponent. There's actually a chance I was supposed to just tuck it with Teferi. I probably screwed that up, honestly. It was going to kill their whole board, essentially. I probably messed that up. Reveals Lightning Skelemental. Well, the thing about Lightning Skelemental is I can actually just take the hit here, so it's not really a big deal. And I can block all the 1/2s, so, yeah, not the end of the world. Oh my gosh. Opponent is absolutely going off. All of this said, they are one kill spell away from having their whole board done. And our deck is just actually all kill spells. So I'm not really concerned about where we are. It's just been somewhat awkward, if that makes sense. Okay. All of this is fine. They don't have good attacks. They definitely can't attack with this. They're probably not attacking with any of these, so it's just the Skelemental. It is attacking Teferi, which is unfortunate. I guess I'm going to leave up Path. I can't use a kill spell anyway now. Kaya's Guile. I don't think that's good enough. Field of Ruin, another land. Definitely don't want that. Alright. I'm going to lose Teferi here. But this gets sacrificed. Man, any kill spell here. Any kill spell. Path to Exile. That's the one we were looking for. Hello. I'll kill this one. Would I like to pay 1? I would. I would like to pay 1. And this is your whole board dying, basically. And now their hand goes back to just not working. So, good spot again for us. Would I rather get a Mystic Sanctuary here or start fielding the opponent? I think I want to hit their redraws more than getting Mystic Sanctuary going. So, I think I'm supposed to take out, I guess, a Fiery Islet. I would guess white is slightly worse. Oh, I'm going to have to pay 1 again, which is pretty annoying, but I'm certainly going to. It also thins, which is relevant. I think that's relevant. And opponent's hand just really doesn't do anything now. They're completely brick-walled by my 2/2. Yeah. I mean, they do have a Voice of Resurgence and a Skelemental of their 4 cards, and those are good. But one of them's a Cavern, which is not good. I don't have counter spells in my deck anymore, so it's not like a free stop to those. They really need, like, an Omnath. Omnath would get them out of it if they're playing the 4-mana one. Illusion. Interesting. I'm going to put this voice in play. Makes sense. Does make sense. But again, none of their attacks are good here at all, really. Thunderkin Awakener doesn't do it. They have to get Plague Engineer off the table before they can really do anything. They can't even put Lightning Skelemental in play, and it is in their hand. Okay, Frantic Inventory was an excellent draw. So the question is, do I want to draw Path to Exile here? I think, again, that they named Illusion, so I should probably just hit the Cavern of Souls with this field to just keep them choked on mana. I can get back that later with a Mystic Sanctuary if I want to. It is awkward that I have to pay for this. I don't love that, but I think it's still just okay. And yeah, I guess Swamp is fine here. Swamp is fine here. Gonna get my nice draw to it and hope I draw some spells. Second Plague Engineer. Well, if the first is good... Oh no. Vesperlark? Gonna bring back Flamekin Harbinger, sure. So none of this really does anything. I'm guessing they want Omnath here. It's like, yeah, okay. Omnath makes sense. Omnath makes sense. It is pretty awkward for me. But at least their Aether Vial doesn't really work anymore. I am losing this. This is going to get them a lot of value, so that's really annoying. They get to Skelemental me too, which is also really annoying now. I guess I'm going to 1 here, which really stinks. But The second Plague Engineer is going to be good. Oh, no, wait. This just kills me. Oh, my God. I actually just died. I didn't think I could lose. I guess the tax on the... Yeah, that... Alright, well, that's a pretty dumb way to die. That should be... Oh, my gosh. That's frustrating. That should be a good matchup, too. That's frustrating. Well, game 1 feels like an atrocious matchup, but the games where you draw Plague Engineer should be good. Well, that's tough. That is tough. Alright, this hand seems pretty good to me. Gonna keep it. I got all my colors. I got early defensive plays. I've got payoffs to play towards. I've got opt to kind of find the thing I need in this matchup. I like this hand quite a bit. We're even on the play, so Mana Leak's gonna get even better. And again, no reason to shock myself early. I'm just gonna play a tapped Hallowed Fountain on 1. I could also see playing Flooded Strand and getting a Watery Grave. I think that would also be reasonable, but I'd rather save the Flooded Strand for later and just get the land I know I want to be tapped for my hand into play. This could end up fetching a Mystic Sanctuary if my draw step is Watery Grave, so again, better to hold the fetch land and lead just on your tap duel first. Opponent's in the tank. Opponent is in the tank. Alright, they have kept. I'm going to play a tapped Hallowed Fountain. And see what opponent does. Tap Shambling Vent. That is interesting. Alright, so now that I have 2 good 2-mana plays here in Mana Leak and Frantic Inventory, I think it's an easy play Island here and save, again, save Flooded Strand for next turn. I don't think there's a lot... I don't think there's an argument really at all to put this one into play over Island this turn. Oh boy. This one might be a long one. Feels like they could be double queuing. I guess we'll find out. Stoneforge Mystic. Don't like that. I'm going to Mana Leak it. Rather not let them have the card that gets them under all my counter spells here. Ooh, Fatal Push is a great draw. So now I can kill their play this turn and cast my Frantic Inventory. I could Frantic Inventory and opt if I wanted to. I definitely want to hit my land next turn. And I'm almost 100% to get Watery Grave with this Flooded Strand this turn. So we'll see what play opponent makes, but I think it's very likely. Okay, Dark Confidant. Yep, that's fine. Opponent seems to be like a white-black Value Town deck. Just kind of definitely a sweet deck on the opponent's part, but it should be a pretty good matchup for us. We have a lot of good cheap removal. Yeah. Alright. And I am going to Frantic Inventory over opting here. Path. Okay. That's fine. It's a good play by the opponent there. Converting Path into a relevant resource, which is a land. Makes sense. But yeah, I'm going to be more mana efficient here. And hope I hit a land. We did not, which is kind of unfortunate. I am going to opt for a land now, though. We're not, like, in dire straits here by any means. Like, if I miss my land drop this turn, it's not the end of the world. I would like to hit it, obviously, but definitely not the end of the world. Okay, we hit it. Perfect. Perfect. Get to put this on top. I can even fetch a Sanctuary and Mana Leak to play this turn if I need to. Probably won't do that, but I could if I need to. They play, like, something crazy like an Ob Nixilis or something. Like a 5-mana one. I could do that. Alright, well, I can't Mana Leak that. They have 3 mana up, and they would pay, so just absolutely no reason to get Mana Leak there. I will, knowing that they got Batterskull, though, I am pretty likely to unearth another Stoneforge Mystic. That one I do think I want to Mana Leak. Yeah, that one I do think I want to Mana Leak. What's happening? We freezing? I want to fetch. What happened? What has happened? Oh, my clock's going down, but nothing's working. I would guess my internet just died. Says I'm connected. Alright, we're back. Yeah, I think I am supposed to mana leak this. Oh, what the heck? I put mana leak on top and then didn't... Ah. Well, that's really annoying. I just didn't opt. That stinks. Yeah, that's really frustrating. Okay, well, I am going to eliminate and cast my mana leak. Quite annoying that it played out this way. But it is just the reality of the situation, is that it did play out that way. That said, none of the equipment... I guess I'm going to bottom the mana leak now, so that ended up being very awkward. Path to Exile was an excellent draw, though. Just absolutely spectacular. So now I get to put Jace in play and Brainstorm. And they're going to get to put Batterskull in play here. But that's fine. Actually... Now, you know what? I'm supposed to just path the Stoneforge Mystic before they untap, so that they just don't get a chance to do that. Or to, like, equip Sword of Fire and Ice. I think that is going to be the case here. Ooh, and I even drew Force Negation, which is just absolutely excellent. So I'm going to put those away. I might pitch the Cryptic to Force here. Depends how crazy their play is. I think I'm going to get Godless Shrine here just so I can path. So giving them that sword really stinks, but if they do something crazy here, I can force it. If they just like cast the Batterskull, I'm just not going to force it. Alright, well, I'm not going to force the Inquisition. I'm going to let that happen. Now if they hard cast Batterskull, which they probably will do, I'm just going to bounce it with Jace. Or probably bounce it with Jace. I guess depends on what I draw. If I draw a way to kill it, like a Fatal Push or a land to get a Mystic Sanctuary so I can eliminate it, or use this Fatal Push, whatever. Archmage's Charm. That works. I really don't want to tick Jace down to 2. Because then it's vulnerable to the Shambling Vent. So I'm going to stay away from doing that. But, you know, given where we're at, I think opponent's going to have a hard time keeping a creature on board. And now we got Jace going, so we have the value engine and they do not. And that's where White-Black struggles. They needed their 2-drops to be good value engines here to really start pulling ahead of me. And they just never did that. Oh, and we just drew 20 things they answered anyway. Perfect. So I'm going to put Cryptic Command on top. And I guess Drown in the Lock. I'm going to play this. And then I think the question is, do I Kaya's Guile, like get a 1/1 and make them sack? Do I want to gain life? Should I exile the graveyard? I don't think I need to make a decision on that yet. So, oh, nope. I definitely screwed this up. Well, okay, so I screwed this up because if I pass, they can animate Shambling Vent and sack that to Kaya's Guile instead. But I could still make a 1/1 and block. I can also just Archmage Charm, steal the Germ. And then it's not attacking Jace anymore. And sure, they can bounce their Batterskull to get around that. But also this play is turned off if they try to do anything with like Sword of Fire and Ice. Yep. So here I am going to go black, white, blue. Target opponent sacrifices a creature. I could actually just kick this for all the modes here. Just somewhat interesting, but not really what I want to be. I'm just going to... Each opponent sacrifices a creature and create a 1/1 black and white spirit. Seems like the best option here. Yep, and they are going to animate the Shambling Vent, which we thought might be the case. We did think that might be the case. But again, we have the Archmage's Charm to just steal this. And also, if they like want to Fatal Push my Spirit, then yeah, it's like we got a nice little 2-for-1 off of this. I still get to just steal the Germ. And yeah, they're going to get to bounce their Batterskull, but really that's just not the end of the world. Give me 1 Germ, please. I get to attack them. I don't know if I gain the life or if they gain the life. That'll actually be interesting to see. I am not sure on this. Very unsure on how that's going to work. Alright. I get to draw 3 cards. Ooh, those are really good cards to draw. Don't think I need to hit my land drop yet. I think what I want to do is actually... you know what? I think I just want to cast the Archmage Charm main phase to draw 2. And then make sure I hit... Now I can leave up Cryptic and Drown this turn. Make sure I hit my land drops. I get to draw Drown in the Lock again next turn. Or, not Drown in the Lock. Archmage's Charm, which is going to be just great. This card's just very good in this matchup. It's just a value spell, so... I'm going to be happy with that, I think. I would imagine opponent's deck is a Bitter Blossom deck. And you know what's really good against Bitter Blossom is Esper Charm. Kind of hoping that can come up at some point. We'll see. But I think it might be good. We'll find out, though. Path the Germ. Okay. This is fine. So I got double all my colors. I could get another island. I guess I'll just get a swamp. I don't know. It doesn't super matter, I don't think. And we drew the exact 2 cards we topped anyway. So opponent's play there was pretty heads up, and it just did not really do anything. Gotta love that Moto Shuffler. Not saying there was an issue with the shuffle there or anything, but it is interesting that that was how that played out. Yeah, an opponent, you know, I mean, this game's going to keep going, but it's just never going to get better for opponent, unfortunately. Tidehollow Sculler. I think this is a great opportunity to put an Archmage's Charm on top of my deck and then cast Cryptic Command for the mode's counter and draw. Do like that. Okay. Yes. Would like to counter target spell and draw a card. And so, opponent has 2 cards in hand. I know one of them is Sword of Fire and Ice, which doesn't do anything unless they have a creature in play. Yep, okay, I mean, that's fine. This Batterskull's not going to generate another creature. If they pick it up and try to replay it, it's getting countered. Oh, we even drew a Force Negation just to hammer that fact home. Okay, ooh. And a Teferi. Very nice. I'm going to put the Watery Grave back and draw the Eliminate, I think. I think that's the best thing to do here. I'm just going to bounce the Sword of Fire and Ice. Just draw this Eliminate. Just make sure I can cast 2 spells this turn if I need to. Pretty unlikely that I need to, but just want to make sure that I can if I do. Liliana the Veil. No thank you. That one... probably too good. I guess I have the Eliminate, but just no reason to even let that hit play. I have a counterspell for their next play if I need it. And this is where the game is now officially over. So you saw I had to fight a few turns with Jason play, but yeah. Yep. At this point, the game is now officially over. Ooh, I kept Field Ruin thinking I could shuffle. I cannot do that. But we saw Shambling Vent, so... you know, this could come up. I would have definitely played... If I had taken a second to think about it, I would have definitely played Watery Grave tapped there instead of a Field of Ruin that doesn't hit anything. I was thinking I get to shuffle. Obviously, I don't. So not a great play, but again, we're kind of in just such a commanding spot that it just doesn't matter. We're going to get to fill up our whole hand with just the goods every turn here. Yeah, Jace the Mind Sculptor is a powerful magic card, as it turns out. There's a reason it was banned in Modern. Oh, that's a This is another Teferi. Hello, Teferi. How you doing, friend? Welcome to the party. Nice to have you. Put that in play. Take this Teferi up, and now the game-ending train is a-rolling. It's a-rolling downhill and fast. You do not see opponent coming back from this. Don't see it at all. Ooh, they got to feel the run. Casting Batterskull. I mean, I appreciate where your head's at, but I'm just going to drown in the lock that. Just going to drown in the lock that. I could also just, like, I have 20 other ways to answer it, and all of them would have been fine, honestly. But, yeah, I'm just going to, just stopping opponents' plays and just putting myself in a spot where I can just use my Planeswalkers every turn is just going to be significantly better, I think. So, just going to keep doing that. I am going to shuffle by hitting their Field of Ruin now. Just, I found a target, so why not? And now I can get a Mystic Sanctuary and put like a Cryptic on top, which I should probably do. No real reason not to here. Might as well just draw another Cryptic command. I don't need it, but I think this should slam the idea home to the opponent that this game is well done. Guess we'll find out how they feel about it, though. Sacking to draw a card, sure. Mana Leak this, whatever it is. Mana Leak. Alright. Opponent wants to let me keep playing. I can get behind this. We got our win con in play already. Alright, I'm going to take this up. Take this one up. Play my Flooded Strand and plus on the opponent. Dark Confidant? Nope. You can have a Dark Confidant. This should be one of those kind of like pseudo feel-bad moments for the opponent where they're like, okay, let me top Dark Confidant. That ain't good. That is not good. And as it turns out, it's not. It is not. Alright, we're about to bring the serious beats here. I don't think opponent's ready for this. Oh, they're going to cast something else. Feast and Famine, huh? Sure. Doesn't matter. Boom. The win con. Cast with Entwine. All the things. Got him. I got a 1/1, buddy. And you know what we're going to draw? Kaya's Guile. I want another 1/1. Start bringing the real beats. All right, let's go beats. Look at the top card of your library. It's a Monastery Mentor. Yeah, that one's probably good enough to put on the bottom. I'll plus this to Fairy, so we're about to hit Ultimate Mode. I guess I can minus this on their Sword of Feast and Famine. It doesn't really matter, but sure. Play that tapped. Pass the turn. Untap my Watery Grave, and it's your go. So it does feel like opponent's trying to kind of waste my clock here. There's not really a huge argument for them doing really anything else, honestly. It's clear the game is done, but I respect it. I respect them, you know, making the plays that they can make, and letting me play with my food. I do enjoy that, so I'm going to cast with Entwine again. Let's gain my 4. Do the thing. I'm going to get an emblem where I get to exile all their stuff. Then I'm going to cast Brainstorm. Put back, I guess, this to Fairy and Path. Exile this, this, and this. Always yield. Cast an Opt. Top that. Exile your white. Cast an Archmage's Charm. Me. Exile this. Exile that. Plus this. Get in for 2. And that's going to be the game. Guess I'm just discarding lands and removal spells. I don't know. It doesn't matter. This game's done. I'm just going to exile a permanent every turn for the rest of the game. Sure. So they really are just trying to waste my time here, which is a little bit rude, but honestly, I don't care. Exile your land. Exile your land. No permanents. Look at the top card of your library. It's a Thoughtseize. Yes. Play my land. Plus this. Hit F6. Go to combat. Attack. F6 again. Discard a Fairy Time Raveler. Sure. Doesn't matter. F6. Look at the top card of your library. Cling to Dust, put that on the bottom, sure. Play that tapped. 6. 6. Look at the top card of your library. Wasteland Strangler, no. 6. 6. Discard a Path to Exile. Just doesn't matter. I will exile all cards from your hand or library. You have 4 cards in your deck. 6. And now I'm just going to F6 every turn, just to not let opponent waste my clock. They just, I mean, they have 4 cards left in their library, 1 card in hand. There's just no reason to do anything. I can exile anything I want at a moment's notice. I know they have no lands left because they didn't play any from their hand, so they literally can't make a play. There's just no reason for me to do anything. And it's one of those spots where it seems like opponents probably getting salty that they lost so bad, and they're just like, oh, I'm gonna make them play it out. And yeah, I mean, whatever. It's fine. If you want to waste both of our lives, that's what you're welcome to, friend. I'm just gonna keep F6ing. And opponent dies in their upkeep, so no reason to even attack. I'll just discard my other frantic inventory and the game's done. Alright, so we did use half of our clock that game, which isn't great, but not the end of the world. We get to bring Kaya in here as a way to kind of kill all their stuff. I think I could bring in Geist. I think Geist is totally reasonable. So I think I'm going to do that. And Purge seems good because of the presence of Bitter Blossom specifically. Although Bitter Blossom's not like great against us, but I think fine to bring in. I don't want Verdict, notably. I could be convinced that Thoughtseize is good in this matchup, and in fact I do think it is. So I'm going to bring in Thoughtseize. I like Esper Charm. I like Purge. Mana Leak's okay. I think I'm going to cut Drown. I don't love Force. This is like a really grindy matchup. I'm going to stay away from Force. I don't think I would bring in Geist like normally, like if this was at a paper tournament, but given that I have clock considerations, I think it's fine to bring in. Kai is probably good enough, but yeah, I think I'm going to go that way. And also, I think cutting Leak is fine. They have a lot of discards, so I think I'd rather just do the like play to the board thing where I'm just, you know, Thoughtseizing them back and then killing all their things. I think that's going to be slightly better. Not going to cut any of my cards that draw multiple cards, though. Honestly, I could see cutting 2 ops. I think I'll do that. I think that's fine. I still have some ops to smooth, but it's not like critical to my game plan. Doesn't, like, really trigger anything. And this hand is great. I can take their spells that matter, kill their early Stoneforges or Bobs. They can even Inquisition me, and my hand's just so redundant that it just really doesn't even matter. I take my push, sure. That makes sense. And we drew the Geest of St. Traft. Hello, Geest. Or Geest, I guess. You could go with Geest. Would like to Thoughtseize you. So opponent has multiple Tidehollow Scullers and a Dark Confidant. I think I'm supposed to just take the I think I'll take a Tidehollow Sculler. I think that's a fine one to take here. They're definitely going to Sculler me and probably take my push. And then, you know what? I was actually probably supposed to take their Bob or their thing that puts Bob, or their reanimate spell for Bob. That was probably bad, honestly. Well, I'm going to Thoughtseize again. I definitely think I'm supposed to take Unearth. It lets them play Bob, but really not the end of the world. I'm one kill spell away from killing Tidehollow, getting Fatal Push back, Fatal Pushing Bob. They might draw some cards off of it. And this is a good start from the opponent. It was a really redundant hand, and it has their one value engine that they really care about. I probably did mess up there, not taking Unearth into Bob. But I do know opponent's hand is not very good against me. Or against Geist. They don't have an answer to this. I guess this can block it. They could also trade off with one of these, but I don't think they're super likely to trade off. And also, they don't really have attacks either. Ooh, Teferi was quite good. So, how do I want to play this? I think it's a pretty easy fetch an island here, play Geist. And next turn, if they offer a trade with Geist with either of their things, I will easily trade. I don't think they'll offer. And then the turn after that, I can bounce Tidehollow and Fatal Push Bob. Castle Lockdwine's annoying, but not the end of the world by any means. So I know they have Swamp and some card I don't know about in hand. I know that to be factual. I actually probably wouldn't trade with Tidehollow at the moment. Yeah, they're not even going to offer, which makes sense. Makes sense. So, I think I'm supposed to do this. Get Tef in play. Go ahead and bounce the Tidehollow. Get to return my card to hand. Get a Fatal Push on Bobby here and get a sweet attack in. And now they have to choose between replaying their thing or using Shambling Vent to kill Teferi. And honestly, either way, I don't care. They could also start pressuring me. That's fine. But I don't think that's what they're going to do. I think they want a Tidehollow here. That would be my guess. So I still know Swamp in their hand. I do know that. But I get to leave Teferi in play, which is pretty good. And now I can have Shambling Vent to protect from Lockthwain. Or, I have Field of Ruin to protect from Shambling Vent. Alright, so I'm going to plus... I think the question here is, what do I do? I'm just going to play the Watery Grave tap so that this can get a Mystic Sanctuary. I can get back push and then get attacks in. I'm not really trying to attack at the moment. Huh. Sort of Feast and Famine. That's actually pretty annoying. It's actually very annoying. It lets them get a pretty good attack here. And now they have protection from black, which is... Yeah, actually, that was, like, probably among the best draws in their entire deck, I would guess. I I do think I'm supposed to frantic inventory. I was probably supposed to do it in response to the equip. Okay, well, I didn't, but that is going to be quite good. Okay, no blocks. Oh, actually, that's not that good. Yikes. That's very annoying. Oh, Jace is very good, though. I will take a Jace. Huh. So, how do I want to play this? I do think I'm supposed to Jace bounce, and there's no reason for me to attack here. They're going to probably replay their Tide Hollow next turn, but I would rather protect my Jace. I'd rather protect any of my creatures from a Feast and Famine hit. So it makes their next turn not spectacular for them. And now I have 2 bounces next turn. I will sack the Geist off here if I need to. I obviously can't attack Geist into a Shambling Vent. That's just not gonna work out for me. So can't do that. I'm a little shocked they didn't activate Castle Lockdown there, honestly. A little shocked about that. Yeah, so now they can't activate and equip, so they don't get the Feast and Famine turn. Which is fine. Fine for me. Ooh, do they have something else good here? Ah, so now they're just going to attack Jace, I assume. I will just easily trade, though. I'm fine with this. I'd rather have Jace going, get some value here. Well, hello. That's pretty good. So I think I'm supposed to start by brainstorming. A land here to go with my Teferi would be absolutely excellent. Oh, Path to Exile is even better. See, I'm going to do this. Play Big Teferi. My island. Plus. I'm going to plus this. That draw was so good, I just don't need to worry about... I don't need to worry about like a Shambling Vent play on any of my guys here. Because now if they fire up a Vent, I can Field of Ruin into Path. And if they don't fire up a Vent, I can just Path this. Get Kaya's Guile back. And now we've got our Planeswalker engines online. I don't really see us losing this game. It could certainly still happen. But I think we've kind of hit that point of no return where it's just going to be too hard for opponent to get out of this. Okay. So, it does seem like, yep, they're going to do this double attack thing. That's fine. We get to field this. Get a nice little plans. Path to Exile that, and that's a GG. That is the game. Now I just have to win in 9 minutes, which shouldn't be too hard. I got a Spirit. I'll be fine. Ooh, another Stoneforge Mystic. A Stoneforge Mystic. Batterskull. That makes sense. But you have another creature too? Oh, they're just equipping. Sure, that makes sense. That makes some sense. Alright, we're going to plus the fairy here. Seems pretty easy. And... Alright, Fatal Push doesn't work yet, but if I bounce this, it does work. So I will Fatal Push it. Cast the Fatal Push. The question is, do I want to draw like a path? I think I probably do want to draw a path. Just because we know Sword of Feast and Famine, so it's better than Push here. And then probably Brainstorm here. Okay, that's all quite good. All very good. Oh, you don't get to untap lands? Very nice. Very, very nice. So opponent has Batter Skull, Sword of Feast and Famine, and stuff. Well, firing up Shambling Vent I don't think is going to do it, but maybe. Alright, let's make the Entwine mode of do all the things with Kaya's Guile. It's going to be my play this turn. They're just going at me. That makes sense. I would not attack a Planeswalker here. No way. Cast with Entwine. God, I love Kaya's Guile. This is such a sweet card. Such a sweet card. Oh, give me that 1/1 black and white spirit action. Love it. Just love to see it. Wasteland Strangler! No! And I just turned it on. My spirit! Why? Wait. Oh, they just didn't process. What? Why is Push still in their deck? Alright, I guess they were like expecting Mentor or something. I don't know. Who knows? Wait. Why did my graveyard get exiled? No, this is my graveyard. Got it. It was popped out. I was going to say, my graveyard should not have gotten exiled. It did not. We're alright. We are alright. Alright, I'm going to plus this to Fairy again. I'm going to do a little Brainstorm Jace action. And all of those seem very good. I'm going to shuffle away the 2 lands on top of my library, plus here. And, yep, don't think opponent has any realistic shot at winning this game. Cryptic Command to Fairy, and, yeah, just actually no shot. I think this game is well done. They're actually Mystic Sanctuary locked. Yeah, there's just no way. Stoneforge Mystic, no thank you. I appreciate the offer, but also no thank you. You know what I would like to draw is another Kaya's Guile. I can get behind another Kaya's Guile. Just get some sweet, sweet spirit action happening. Easily get behind that. Okay. Yes. And then let's counter draw on this. Boom. Thank you. Sure. That's all fine and dandy, but not a big deal. Not a big deal at all. I think my life total is just so good here, it doesn't matter. I'm going to make him a sacrifice to make a 1/1. Oh, I need to tap in a way that lets me cast the spell, though. The 1/1 probably also doesn't matter, but, I mean, who cares? Realistically, nothing I do matters here, if we're being honest. They're going to lose to the Teferi emblem pretty quickly. Sure, draw 3 cards, why not? I'll put that back and this back, I guess. Plus, get in for 1. Sending a message. It's about sending a message. And we got the ultimate coming up next turn. That's going to end the game in short order. You know what I want to draw is another Cryptic Command. That sounds dope. Drawing another Cryptic Command sounds quite good. Realistically, I should just draw Kaya's Guile again. Just so I can get 2 guys in play and make sure I have a clock. But, yeah, you know what? I will draw Kaya's Guile again. The game's so locked up it doesn't matter. If If an opponent wants to time me out through 6 minutes, it's not going to happen. I can win with 2 spirits, and it's only 7 attack phases, not that long. So going heavy on the spirits. I also have a Geist in my deck that I will get to eventually. There's only 28 cards left in my deck, and that's going to kill him in like 2 swings, essentially. But like Kaya's Guile on top of my deck. Thank you. Okay. Yes. And then counter target spell, draw a card. Opponent has Sword of Feast and Famine in hand. Yeah, that doesn't do actual anything. Appreciate you coming out, though. So here we get an emblem, which is great. Fairy Emblem kills with other Planeswalkers in play, just so good. Every time, it's so good. I'm going to return your Batterskull to your hand for you. Save you the 3 mana. Exile Castle Lochthwain. Sure. Brainstorm with Jace. I'll put this back and Purge back, I guess. Target that. That. And that. Play another Teferi. Bounce your Sword of Feast and Famine. Exile that. Draw 2 cards. Thank you. Exile that. And that. And then cast an Opt. I mean, it just doesn't matter. I'm just looking for the Geist exactly at this point. Opponent has no library. Or no, I guess they have a library. They don't have any cards. Or any lands. They have 2 equipment in their hand with no lands. And then I am just going to gain 4 life and make a 1/1. Main phase, and then hit F6. I'm going to get another Kaya's Guile. Thank you. Okay. Yes. Gain 4 life, make a 1/1. Brainstorm Jace. Put these back. Gain 4 life, make a 1/1. And get to attacking. Perfect. I have an instant speed exile 2 permanents if I need it. Which I won't, but I do have it. And now I can just straight F6 through the rest of the game. I've got enough power here that the game is done. They are never going to get to have more than 1 land in play. It does seem like they're kind of salty making me attack through it. I was going to say, if you don't think I can get through 3 attack steps F6ing in 4 minutes, then you're just wasting both of our time, my friend. Alright, so that one went better than the Elementals one. I still feel like that Elementals one was winnable, and I played bad. So that's probably on me. That'd actually be one to go back and look at. Game 1, I don't think we could have won. Maybe if I had played a slightly better with the Force Negation, but I don't think we were winning Game 1. Game 2, I'm pretty sure I messed up there playing the Unsettled Mariner, but it is what it is. Let's just keep playing, keep testing, see how this deck feels. Alright, back for round 4. I have received news in between rounds that somebody is making fun of Bogelstron on Twitter. I'm not going to stand for that. Oh, whoa. Alright, I got a little excited there and kept a hand I definitely should have mulliganed thinking about Bogelstron. Bogelstron can do that to a person. So, yeah, this is going to be tough. This is not a hand I was supposed to keep. I guess if I draw lands, it could be good, but yeah, this is bad. 4-drop. That is not what I was looking for there, as it turns out. Kaya's Guile's actually good against them, though, so maybe, but holy cow, is this hand bad. Wow. Definitely wish I had mulliganed, in retrospect. Very much wish I had mulliganed. This should be a good matchup, too, so kind of unfortunate. Man. Frustrating. Frustrating. Got all excited about Bogle's Tron and gonna take the L for that. Oh, and a mutagenic growth. Wow. We are in the dumpster already. This should be a good matchup too. We have a lot of good removal spells for them. Yeah, this is tough. This is tough. This should have just been an easy mull. And if we just kill their early creatures, their hand doesn't actually do anything. Our hand's actually very good at killing. Our deck is very good at killing their threats too. And they're just flashing back? That is wild to me. So, like a push here would be great. An eliminate? Nope. Wasn't it. It's on top to Fairy? Nope. Alright, well, that's a tough loss. That's a frustrating loss right there is what that is. Very frustrating loss. This should be a good matchup. But obviously I kept a hand that I just did not want to keep and got punished for it. But I'm going to bring in a bunch of very good cards. Cut my clunky cards. Esper Charm's pretty bad. I do like Teferi's also pretty bad. Everything else seems quite good though. I could be convinced to cut like an Opt here. I think an Opt is a fine cut here. Opt is not bad, but everything else is just really good, so I think cutting an Opt is okay. This matchup should be very good for us, so that's a really frustrating loss. We have just so much cheap spot removal. Post-board we get even more, though, so I wouldn't be shocked if... Come on, give me a reasonable hand. Well, I wouldn't call this hand reasonable. I do still think it's a keep. And I think I'm supposed to bottom the Frantic Inventory. God, the 2 Mystic Sanctuary hand is a big punish. At least the opponent's also on a mull, but yeah, this stinks. This is really frustrating. That said, I still think I'm not in a bad spot. We are 1 Godless Shrine away from this hand being actually excellent. And we have an Opt to kind of find it. But yeah, this is annoying. Very annoying. Man. Got so excited about Bogle's Tron. Alright. A fetch land here would be excellent. Off the top, fetch land 1 time. Field of Ruin. That's very much not a fetch land. I'm going to bottom eliminate in the hopes that I hit a fetch land. Okay, we didn't. Spectacular. I could have gusted the Soulscar Mage. I could have done that. The thing is, though, is that, yeah, if they play like a Steam Vents, I will get to Field of Ruin next turn, so that's good. And, yep. This is all fine. We haven't taken enough damage yet that any of this really matters. They also don't play basic Island, so I can Field of Ruin and then push. Ugh. God, the mana is just killing me here. I mean, obviously I've drawn back-to-back 4-drops, which really stinks, but it is what it is. Alright, gonna get a Swamp. I think Sprite Dragon is worse for me than Soulscar Mage, so I'm gonna push that one. And F6. Opponent's on 3 cards. I'm at 18 still, so if I do draw just like any land, I'm in a good spot. I even have a Gust I can play next turn, so it's not like the end of the world by any means. But yeah, really hoping to hit a land, honestly. Okay, so Bedlam Reveler, they're not going to be able to cast, which is good for me. Or at least they're very unlikely to be able to cast it. Would still just love to draw a land for Jace here. Love to draw a land for Jace. Okay, we drew a land. It was actually not a bad one either. It wasn't great, but it does play. And I think I just want to bounce Soulscar Mage. Just really make opponent use a bunch of resources on a thing that doesn't matter that much. I could have used Jace to kind of fix my draw here, but now they kind of have to decide what they want to do this turn. And replaying Soulscar Mage doesn't answer Jace necessarily. So if they have a Bolt or like a 2-damage spell, this could be bad. But this deck has a lot less burn than you would think. It's more like exactly Bolt that would kill Jace here. And if they don't kill Jace, I do think this game is over. Okay, so they have the Bolt. That said, we're still one white source away from ending the game, basically on the spot. Opponent's down to 2 cards. Okay, another Jace. Like we said, they don't have a ton of stuff they can really do to get Jace off the table. I still think, though, that I'm supposed to just brainstorm here and fix my hand. Okay. These are good. I'm definitely going to go in that order, play this tapped. So opponent, in all likelihood, will get to kill Jace here. But at least they're going to focus their turn primarily on killing Jace. That would be my guess. And if they want to use this Lava Dart, they're going to have to sacrifice a mountain. So there'll be a little... It's going to be a little worse for them mana-wise. And then I've got answers for... You know, next turn I can go to Fairy Plus. Then eliminate their threat. So I think overall pretty good. Oh, if this is a Storming Entity, that's annoying. Well... It's annoying, but it's not the end of the world by any means. Not the end of the world by any means. So, I do think they're going to spend their turn killing Jace, which is fine for me. Next turn, they're going to have to do a lot to get to Fairy off the table, though. And that's also fine for me. Okay, I want to stop in my end step so that I can get rid of... this Soulscar Mage. Before they get a chance to, like, put up a Spell Pierce or something. Something crazy that they could have. And now they only have 2 spells. Okay. Well, Oct was a good draw for them there, I guess. But again, we're a white source away from just casting this Verdict and just being in a great spot. They still need another spell here to get to Fairy off the table, and if they have to use that light or the Lava Dart out of their graveyard, that would be good for me. They bottomed. It's pretty likely they have a spell though, but like Soulscar Mage doesn't do it if they drew another one. Okay, and they sacked the Steam Vent. I don't really understand that, but it is an interesting play. Oh, they have a light up the stage? Wow. Very annoying. Oh my gosh. Can I draw a white source one time? White source one-time dealer. I do think a white source would lock up the game here, if I could draw it. White source. Gust is not a white source, but I am still going to run out this Teferi. I just need to find a white source. Tucking this isn't that good, and I can Aether Gust their Soulscar Mage this turn. Okay, well, our mana has not cooperated at all. Been very uncooperative, in fact. But it's not clear they can't even necessarily cast this. They would need to play a land to cast it. So it's not clear that they can deal with Teferi. It's coming at me. Very interesting. I guess I'll go to blocks, let them have a chance to cast stuff. If they don't, I'm going to Gust this. Okay. They bottom Soulscar. That makes sense. I assume they have a light up. That's the thing that makes the most sense in their hand. Yeah, another light up. Sure. And they just hit 2 Lava Darts. So they don't even get to play the Sprite Dragon this turn. Oh, and they play another Soulscar from their hand. So white source would be insane. Oh, we didn't hit a white source, but we can actually now kill Storming Entities. So this actually goes quite well for us. Yep. I'm going to get to Kaya, exile Soulscar, untap a black source. Yep, okay. So even though we had awkward mana, we managed to find a way. Like I said, I think this matchup should be good for us. We drew about as awkwardly as we possibly could have there. But, yeah, I do think this matchup should be good for us. Alright. Just going to run it back. Again, I think this matchup is good for us. We've got a bunch of ways to kill the threats that matter. Stormwing Entity is still the problem card. It's the thing I need to play around the most. What is with this awkward mana in every hand? It's so frustrating. I guess I keep this. This hand's not terrible. It's not ideal, but it's a keep, I think. And I probably bottom Force Negation, given that I'm low on resources. Very annoying. Drown in the Lock is at least almost always on against this deck, so that is good. But yeah, this is annoying. Just can't get a hand with some good mana in it. Maybe the mana base is built poor. I would buy that. Alright. I'm going to play tap Mystic Sanctuary for the 3rd game in a row. And pass. Again. Oh, now they get to light up too. Gosh, I wish I had kept that Force Negation now. Well, you can't get the play right every time. But I'm hoping this is a light up into try and hit lands, and if they whiff on lands, that'd be excellent for us. They might just have another land already, and it's just, okay, so that was a really bad light up for them. They whiffed on lands, yeah, that was a really bad light up for them. Drew another Mystic Sanctuary, perfect. I was just thinking that's exactly what I wanted there, was another Mystic Sanctuary. Oh no, I played into the Spell Pierce. That is brutal. That is quite brutal. What is this? Feels like another light up. I am going to counter this very easily. I don't think this play is close. I definitely get Godless Shrine. Mana Leak that. And it really feels like opponent missed their land. I think they probably would have played a land first so they would have access to Spell Pierce. Maybe not. But their last light up actually ended up doing nothing for them. That one missed the land. I can now kill the Swift Spear and play this Mystic Sanctuary that just won't come into play untapped ever. But I get to kill Swift Spear, and now opponent has 1 land and no threat in play with me having an answer. Well, I guess I don't have an answer. I have no answers to anything. But I have an opt to look for any land that lets me cast the rest of my stuff. Opponent's still struggling here on the ability to do anything. A land lets me play a Jace, which would be amazing. Perfect. That was probably the best draw in my deck. And this definitely gets Hallowed Fountain. This definitely gets Hallowed Fountain. Wild Slash me? Okay. Very aggressive, but I guess they're trying to set up for a Bedlam Reveler. That makes sense to me. They still can't do that, but it does seem like that's what they're trying to set up to do. Okay, so now I think it's a pretty easy time to bait and steal the Soulscar Mage. Gain control of target non-land permanent. And they did Spell Pierce, which we thought they were going to do. That's fine. Nope. So now I am going to go white, black, blue. I think my life total is high enough that I'd rather exile their graveyard to make Bedlam Reveler not a real play. Because it does feel to me like they were playing towards that with that Wild Slash on my main phase. So I'm going to make them sacrifice a creature and exile all cards from their graveyard. It is a little bit awkward that I have put myself in a spot where 2 bolts could beat me now. But I think it's okay. I think that's acceptable. We now have good mana going forward. We have a Jace for a follow-up here on their play this turn if we need it. It doesn't feel like opponent really has that much happening. Okay, Sprite Dragon's actually really annoying here, as it turns out. But again, a lot of good draw steps here. I'm going to bottom land. Don't really want another one. Okay, that land I'll take. Okay, so I think it's a pretty easy play Jace here. I'm going to play this, put this in play in case of Spell Pierce. And now I can... I think I'm just going to plus. Nope. I screwed that up. Yes. Then I guess I path. I screwed this whole turn up. I didn't sequence this well at all. I think it's going to be okay, but yeah, I really didn't sequence that very well. Really did not sequence that very well. If I do get my Kaya's Guile back, I think I have a really good shot of winning the game. If I don't, I would imagine I'm going to be in a lot of trouble. Okay, Swift Spear. So now I do think I should win this game. Opponent is completely out of resources. I get to Kaya's Guile, make them sack, and I gain 4. And I get a chump block. So I do like my spot. And Mystic Sanctuary does work now. I would like to draw Kaya's Guile. Thank you. So they never had the Bedlam Reveler, but that's fine. Black, white, black. I'm going to cast with Entwine. And I think I'm supposed to just bounce Sprite Dragon. This is kind of bad against them drawing exactly Lava Dart, but I think that's fine. I'm not going to play around them hitting that. Yeah, that one of. Okay. So now I think we're going to win if... Alright, and I will block here. Okay, they didn't even attack, so they just didn't have the spell, which makes sense. Okay. So, I can Mystic Sanctuary again, get another Kaya's Guile, which I think is definitely the play. And now I'm just going to sack and gain 4. I'd rather just gain the life. That order right there. Black, white. And I'm doing this to play around exactly Spell Pierce. There's no other reason to do it, but I think this is just totally reasonable. Each opponent sacrifices a creature, you gain 4 life. So I'm back to 9. Opponent has 1 card in hand, no board. We have a 1/1 to protect our Jace from a haste threat. We're out of Spell Pierce or Mystical Dispute range. We have an active Jace that they cannot kill with 1 spell, unless they have something wild like a Magmatic Sinkhole or something. Something they're probably not playing. We're up to 8 lands now. We've got a pretty comfortable life total. So yeah, I really like our spot. Man, opponent going all in on these islets. Alright. I'm going to brainstorm. I think it's a pretty easy keep the push, put the fetch land in play. And I do think I can start attacking now, given that I have the push. Storming Entity doesn't have haste, so it's not going to deal with Jace. Every other threat in their deck I can push. They're nowhere close to Bedlam Reveler. Like, not even remotely close. They do get 4 cards, which is somewhat scary, but their burn spells don't really kill me. They don't have a lot of them anyway that would. Morphos, yeah, Morphos is fine. It doesn't really do that much. Soulscar Mage, sure. Lightning Bolt, me, I guess, sure. I will push the Soulscar in response. Okay, now this is kind of scary. I hope I put... Nope, that was the wrong one. Very good. Well, now I'm going to draw 3. Okay. Everything's better. Everything's better now. Everything's better now. I got a Force Negation for their next burn spell. I've got a removal spell for anything in their deck that's not Storming Entity. The game's not over, certainly. Yeah, not countering that. Also, they only play 4 bolts, so it's not even like they have a ton of like answers to the things I have. If that makes sense. What matters more here? I don't need islands anymore. I think I can just pretty safely get a plains. And then I'm going to keep brainstorming. I really just want to find the other Kaya. Oh, that's a good draw. Does it make sense to play Teferi here? They can't counter it. I can still leave up Force Negation and have a blocker. So I do think it makes sense to play Teferi here. I just want to get this going, so I just am clocking them and gaining resources. Yep. I think this makes sense. I do kind of a shields down moment, but they're only going to have 2 cards next turn. They have to kill me through a Force Negation, which seems pretty unlikely. Well, this is really annoying if their last card is exactly Spell Pierce. I'm going to be kind of tilted about that. Okay, it wasn't. So now they need 4th Bolt, basically exactly to kill me. Alright, they didn't have it. That's good. I'm going to start by plussing Teferi. Oh, Kaya. Kaya, you beautiful, beautiful Kaya. Hello. Hello, sweet lady. I would like to... Yes! Kaya! Kaya! Whew. So that game was way closer than it needed to be, but Kaya came right on time. Hello, Kaya. All right, we're back for round 5. I feel like I recognize the opponent I'm playing against. I think they're pretty good, but we won the die roll. And we've got another just beautiful Mystic Sanctuary in our opening hand as our island. That said, I do think this is a keep. It's a good hand if opponent has any creatures in their deck at all. And I even have a Mana Leak on turn 2 to kind of stop them from going crazy. I've got an Opt to look for a white source. Yeah, if opponent's rolling to 6 and playing creatures, I don't think we can lose if they... You know, there's a lot of stuff we could lose to here for sure. Like if we're playing against Tron, we're probably dead. But I think given that we registered this deck, we're going to keep this hand in hope. Okay. Arbor Elf isn't great for us, because you don't really want to path that. Oh, and we drew the white source, so that's actually perfect. So I'm going to put that into play. I will fetch a tapped Hallowed Fountain here. There's a world where I want to like path the Arbor Elf and Opt on my turn. That would make sense. And it feels like they're playing Panza. That would be my guess. Okay. Into Seasoned Pyromancer. That is not something I would like to let resolve. So let's get a Hallowed Fountain. Yes. And then Mana Leak this. Against this deck, if you can get your Mana Leaks against, you know, the right spells, it's usually pretty good. We have a Swamp, which is nice. We can push a Magus of the Moon if we need to. Ooh, Field of Ruin's pretty good here. This lets me get the plains for a path, a future path, if that matters. I can also Kaya's Guile this turn, which could be good. I think I'm going to wait on the field, because I'm more interested in Kaya's Guiling here or path and opting, depending on what opponent plays. Also, this protects me from Magus of the Moon somewhat. Pillage. Okay, that's not ideal, certainly, but I'm fine with it. I'm going to make opponent sacrifice a creature, and I would like to create a 1/1. And my white source gets pillaged, but I have Field of Ruin for white next turn if I need it. We actually have a clock in play, which is kind of nice. Ooh, and we drew the island, so we're pretty protected against Magus of the Moon now, which is nice. And we have Path up this turn. I think I want to do this now before it lets them, you know, have more mana on their next turn. And just protect myself from Magus. I also can just Path anything they play this turn. I don't really want to see Bloodbraid Elf, but anything else I'm mostly okay with. Bone Crusher Giant, that's fine. Not super concerned about that. I do want to be mana efficient here because I only have one white source. It makes sense for me to path now, even though it gives them a land on their next turn, which I don't love. But if this deck, you know, has elves and stuff they could draw, that wouldn't be great for them. I'm going to play the Pluto Delta here. I usually do like to save it for specifically Mystic Sanctuary targets, but we're still an island away, even given that, and I don't need to fetch. I like getting in play to fetch an island in case their play is Magus of the Moon. If it's Glorybringer, yeah, we're going to path that for sure. I actually could see an argument here for opting before Glorybringer resolves in case I hit a counterspell. But I'd rather see what is available to me off the opt before I decide what I want to do with this Delta, I think. They're fetching, which is interesting. Just getting F6 value. Okay, that makes sense. So I don't want to draw land. No, I still think I'm supposed to opt first. Jace. Oh, Jace is excellent. We'll put Jace on top. And I'm going to save this now because of it lets me shuffle something away I don't like. And I'm going to leave the Spirit. I think I'm supposed to plus, though. Seasoned Pyromancer. Yeah, that one's way too good. It lets them just get a free draw 2, which I don't like. So, okay, Utopia Sprawl is one of those things that you're kind of hoping they draw when they're flooding like this and you've pathed them a few times. All right, perfect. So that turn went really well for us. It feels like opponent doesn't really have that much. Ooh, and we drew a Force Negation, which is excellent. Oh, we drew a Teferi too. Oh, this is just the night. Oh, so good. Okay. So I want to draw. I do like the Mystic Sanctuary. So what I think I'm going to do is Frantic Inventory, Drown. Play No, I have to fetch, otherwise it doesn't come into play untapped. I think I screwed that up, actually. Oh, man. Well, that's really annoying. I do think I screwed that whole thing up. But getting Teferi in play I think is going to be good enough. And I can get a Path to Exile here. Just to make sure that I'm protected from like a Glorybringer or a Bloodbraid on my walkers. And then now I get to untap my island in the plains, and I have something to stop a non-creature spell if that matters, or a Path to Exile to stop a hasty threat if that matters. So I feel like we're in a pretty good spot. The one thing I really don't want to see here is exactly Seasoned Pyromancer. Bloodbraid Elf would be not great, but acceptable. It's something we could play through. Okay. So they just pack it in, and that makes sense. And now we get to board in a whole bunch of really good cards. Thoughtseize I like quite a bit against them. Kaya to just eat their things is also really good. I can see an argument for Plague Engineer. Celestial Purge I think is also quite good. I could be convinced to board in Verdict, although I think I'm going to stay away from it. I don't like Cryptic very much, or Archmage's Charm. And Path is a little awkward. They're kind of ramping into big stuff. Eliminate's good mostly. No, Eliminate I think Eliminate's the worst one. I'm going to cut Eliminate. And I think also cutting an... I could cut a Force Negation in this matchup. Honestly, Force Negation is not that good either. Let's just bring in the Noxious Grass. Wait, they don't have like any green stuff, right? They might have like a Gargaroth, but they would not bring that in against me. I'll bring in one Cryptic. I don't want to have a ton of like triple blue stuff against a deck that is playing like chokes and stuff, but I do want to be able to answer chokes and boils. Actually, now that I've said chokes and boils, I do kind of want Force Negation back. They are more likely to have choke, which Esper Charm's good against. I'm going to cut a Kaya's Guile for a force. I think that's a fine place to go. I do have Thoughtseize and Mana Leak and all of those kind of spells to stop that, and I have Gust as like a pseudo counter spell. So it's not the end of the world. Teferi, I'm pretty good against this deck's actually good against choke. You never want to see choke, obviously, but you're not bad against it necessarily. Most of our planeswalkers are good against it. Not so much Kaya, but Kaya I think is very good against them in general because it can just start eating their Arbor Elves in there. A bunch of their stuff. I could be convinced I should have Eliminate in, but they just don't have that many cheap creatures I really care about. It's really just Arbor Elf I want to eliminate. hitting a Seasoned Pyromancer is fine, but not great. Ugh. I don't think this hand's a keep. I think it's too awkward. I'm going to be able to find a lot of stuff, but it's just so slow on the draw. It is nice to go, you know, Frantic Inventory into Frantic Inventory. So I guess I could see it. This deck is just so fast on the draw, though. I just want to have something to interact, and this deck doesn't do, or this hand doesn't do that well. It's also awkward, like, what do I fetch? Do I get Watery Grave so that I can push? Do I get Basic Island so that I'm better protected against Magus of the Moon? A lot of questions there. I think this is a mulligan, though. Alright, this hand's also not great, but I do think it's better. And I think Force Negation is the bottom here, just based on the rest of the context of the hand. It would be okay against some of their things, but I think overall it's going to be the bottom here. Just on a mulligan to 6, the card disadvantage is a little much, I think. I think I'd rather draw it later and protect myself from some of their haymakers after I get this Jace in play. It is good with Jace to just be able to tap out for Jace and then protect against, you know, like the choke that turn, but really a lot of their follow-ups to Jace are going to be like Glorybringer or Bloodbraid Elf or some creature that punishes Jace, and if that's the case, then they just turn 1 shock bolt me. What? What just happened? God, opponent's sending a message out here, and you know what? I respect it. That was wild. What just happened? Just shock bolt you. I love it. Ivan Katanduva, hats off to you, sir. I love it. Just the disrespect. Like, you're not going to have anything I want to bolt. I'm bolting you. Little did I know I have a Jace in my hand. Realistically, it probably signals that they have another bolt in hand. That would be my guess. But of the things they could have played on turn 1, I'm pretty happy with bolt. I'm going to be honest. There's not a lot of 2-drops here that I'm particularly scared of. Scavenging Ooze is fine, but not spectacular against me. And, yeah, now I get to pass with Leak, Gust. Yeah. So I'm going to take some damage from Scavenging Ooze, but, again, it's really not the end of the world. I'm still at 17. That bolt was pretty aggro. I'm going to be honest. Pretty aggro. But if they don't do anything here, I get to just Gust the Skoos. So they kind of need to, like, play into what I'm doing. Alright, I will just Gust the Skoos. Seems like a pretty easy play on my... pretty easy decision on my behalf. Make sure my Frantic Inventories stay on. I'm actually curious to see what they do with it. Are they going to top or bottom? Yeah. Interesting stuff. I would like to draw... I think I'd like to draw an island here. A fetch land would be good so I could get some black mana going. I don't really need anything at this moment necessarily, so... I think it's all fine. Ooh, it maybe feels like they have a Veil of Summer here. Which would be kind of punishing. It would certainly be punishing if I got Veiled. But, okay, it doesn't look like it. I think they're just deciding to top or bottom. Fair enough. Alright, we're going to get Mystic Sanctuary into play. They're bolting me again. Alright, I kind of love it. I kind of love it. I'm going to be honest. It's very aggressive. Okay, so they put it on top. Fair enough. I will just Mana Leak this. I think I'm happy doing that, and I'm really hoping to draw... Oh, now they Veil of Summer? No? Oh, maybe they're bolting me now? Just bolting again? Just 3 bolts? If they miss their land drop and bolt me here, that would be absolutely wild. Land! How about uncastable? How's that? Not great. Okay. I do think opponent has another bolt in hand. I think that's the case. It makes sense why they've been... Yep. Just bolt me again. Okay. They've just been incredibly aggressive, and it makes sense. Kaya's Guile is going to eliminate a lot of this. But they're down to 1 spell. And there's a lot of things here I would Gust. I'm kind of just hoping they let me take the turn off and cast this Frantic Inventory. But if they don't, I will Gust. And it doesn't feel like a Bloodbraid Elf. Okay. Yeah, definitely Gusting that. And really praying to draw any land in my deck is untapped and lets me cast Cryptic here. And they're drawing Seasoned Pyromancer, so really want to draw land. Okay, that's not a great draw. but it is... If I draw a black source here... Okay, how about a black spell? Well, we kept a 3-land draw, or 3-land hand on the draw, and have just completely whiffed, which is very unfortunate. I think if we had a counterspell for that turn, we couldn't lose. Given that we drew actual garbage there, we're in a much tougher spot. And now we have no castables. Alright, that's really annoying. That's really annoying. I mean, we kept a 3-land hand on the draw. It's turn 6. I mean, 6 straight draw steps we didn't hit. At least I get to see what they're bringing in here. Glorybringer. Okay, that actually kills me. That's really annoying. I feel like we got really unlucky there. Just actual never drawing a land. Not much we could have done. Oh, it was still 2 cards down. Perfect. I mean, yeah, it's not great. Also, I want to cut all the Kaya's Guiles. They did play that pretty aggressive, but I still think it's right to cut the Guiles. And I would like to just bring back in a Cryptic command here, I think. Nah, I want a Verdict in my deck. I want to have 1 Verdict on the play just to be able to clean up some Elves pretty freely. I actually should probably have both Verdicts in, realistically. That feels like a game we should have won. Yep. Okay. This hand has good mana. We can push a turn 1 elf. I mean, it's not great mana, but we have good mana. We've got an opt to hit the 3rd land drop. If they have a creature-related draw, we should be pretty good. If it's like Arbor or Utopia Sprawl into a Planeswalker, we're probably going to struggle. And we might lose, but if it's an Arbor Elf hand, we're in a great spot. Alright, perfect. Love to see the Arbor Elf there. I think this is an easy get Godless Shrine and push the Elf. I do just want to be mana efficient, given that I'm light on lands and heavy on spells at the moment. But, okay, 3-mana Teferi is actually very good. We can path whatever... We could path anything they play this turn. We could also just not do that. If it's another 1-mana spell, we can actually drown in the Locket, which... If it's... I mean, there's actually a real argument to do that. Okay. Utopia Sprawl... It feels like they might be counting on this for red, so I am actually just going to counter this. I think that's reasonable. It's a little weird, but I think it's reasonable. Land here... Oh, not land, but I am going to opt main phase looking for land, and we hit, so that's good. To put this into play tapped. Opponent might be color screwed. It's very possible they kept a hand where they didn't have red mana. All that said, they would have played the forest anyway. Oh, it does look like they're color screwed. This is excellent. Land here. Oh, and we hit the land. Perfect. Now we get to pass with Cryptic up. We can Archmage or Esper Charm to draw 2. Now I don't really think we can lose. And we counting that Utopia Sprawl was great. This deck is actually really short on red sources. They count Utopia Sprawl as a red source, and messing with it can matter. Alright, Blood Red Elf here is annoying. Let's hope they don't hit something crazy good. Bonecrusher Giant's kind of annoying too, actually. What do I think matters more? I think given that they're a little red source light, I am just going to get an island here. I could get a basic Plains, but then I can't Cryptic. I think I'm going to Cryptic counter draw on the Bloodbraid Elf. Let the Bonecrusher resolve, and then Teferi bounce it next turn. And that way, if they want to use their turn to stomp Teferi, that's fine. I don't care. And if they do, you know, like another hasty thing, I can path it, and that would also be fine. Alright, so I do think it's basic island here. That one can resolve, and then I'm going to Cryptic counter draw on the Bloodbraid. Okay, Purge is not bad either. It's a pretty good one. Okay, so here I'm going to Teferi bounce because I would like to hit a land drop. We didn't hit a land, but this now protects us from choke, which, yeah, I'm still not going to go too crazy into hitting a land. Also, if they stomp, I can force a negation here, which is relevant. Okay, I am actually going to force a negation, keep my Teferi in play. This protects me against future chokes, which I think is relevant. And I get to untap with a bunch of removal spells and some good stuff, I guess. I can draw 2 if I want to. Which, ideally, that's what we're going to do with this Esper Charm. It's much better than making them discard at this point. It does feel like they're trying to get some red in here, though. Cindervines. That's fine. We can purge that if that comes up. But mostly it's just... Okay. Yeah, none of this really matters, I don't think. Target player... just draw 2 cards. I'll take the 1. Okay. We have a purge here for one of them. It's just totally fine. I do think I'm supposed to get a Mystic Sanctuary and bring back either Cryptic or Esper Charm end of turn. Let's see what their turn is first before I make that decision. But I am pretty sure that's where I'm supposed to go. I'm going to let Seasoned Pyromancer resolve. That might be a little loose. Because they're definitely discarding... Oh, they only discarded 1 spell. Interesting. Okay, Utopia Sprawl's fine. Bolt me? Oh, Bolt Teferi. Ah, that makes sense. Okay. So now they've kind of flooded out. They might have a play next turn that could be pretty good, but I'm not super concerned about the 1/1. I do think I want to get like a Cryptic command here. I think I want Cryptic. Cryptic just seems like the best draw step of the things I could draw. Yes. And then I would like to Fatal Push. Maybe that's wrong. I guess I'll path the Seasoned Pyromancer so they don't get the flashback. Oh, well, I did this in the wrong order. I screwed this up. I was supposed to just purge one of the Cindervines first. So that was just... That just cost me 1 life for no reason. But we're drawing Cryptic here, so we're in a pretty good spot. There's not very many things I can have this turn that are great against me. We're going to have to deal with the Cindervines at some point, but it doesn't need to be this turn. God, Blood Red Elf as the last thing is really annoying. Into Skoos, though, is not the biggest deal. Skoos I'm fine with. I'll let that resolve and Fatal Push it with Blood Red on the stack to kind of get more information about what I need to do. Very annoying that they have the Blood Red Elf that turn. They really only have like 8 cards in their deck that are good against me, if we're being honest. Clothis. Okay. Well, now I'm a little scared. This was also quite a bad draw. I would really like to draw a Planeswalker here. Or something good. Polluted Delta was not the thing. So I'm going to pass. I really need to hope they brick for a turn. Or they target an instant or sorcery in my graveyard. That I would like to get back like a Purge. If they target Purge, I'm just going to snap. Get back Mystic Sanctuary. Okay, they're eating their own Blood Red Elf. That makes sense. So that turn, yeah, I mean, we really needed a Planeswalker last turn, and now we didn't hit it, and now the Cindervines are going to start adding up. I think Cindervines is terrible to bring in against me, if we're being honest. Oh, it feels like opponent drew bolts for turn, which was probably about as good of a draw as they could have had. No, all right, maybe not. So what do I want to get? It probably still just is Purge. Probably. I think it's Purge. I need to just hope they whiff 2 draw steps in a row. I mean, that's where I'm at. I don't really have outs, though. I need them to have nothing, essentially. That's where we're at. Because I'm drawing Purge for this turn, and then purging this, going to 2, taking a shot to 1, dead to just, like, everything they could have. Oh, I can't even cast... Ugh. I mean, I will hit their stomping grounds. I don't think that matters very much, but I may as well. Yeah, we just flooded a little too much. Game 2, we couldn't draw a land to save our life. This game, all we drew is lands, basically. I mean, we definitely drew spells. I'm not going to say we only drew lands, but we basically only drew lands. We don't have anything we can draw here to get us out, I don't think. This 1/1 elemental is going to be kind of the end of the game. It really was that one turn there, I think, where the opponent drew the Bloodbraid Elf. And I don't think Cindervines is good against us. I really don't, but it's good here. Just locks me out of casting anything. Of course, they just draw another Bloodbraid. Sure. Veil. Dude, I don't have spells in hand. I guess I just wanted to... Yeah, oh, into Seasoned Pyromancer. Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. Alright, well, we died. Never drew a Teferi. You need a Teferi or a Jace in this deck, it feels like. We never drew any of the... We never really drew any of our card draw. I mean, we didn't draw Frantic Inventory, we didn't draw Jace, we didn't draw Teferi. Esper Charm drew us 2 cards, but it was just more lands, so kind of a screw into flood scenario. I do think this should be a pretty good matchup, but obviously it didn't go great there, so it is what it is. Overall on the deck, I thought it was pretty good. I think blue-white might still be better. I think I still prefer blue-white. I don't think Esper was doing anything that much better, but I am happy I played with Esper just to, you know, make sure, just get that testing in. I do think blue-white's better. I think, too, if we're concerned about, like, budget on the mentors, someone in the comments suggested, you know, Geist instead, and that was kind of why we tried it today. And I do think Geist is a good sideboard card for blue-white, especially when you have the Winds of Abandon and On Thin Ices and a bunch of ways to kind of clear the board for it, which blue-white doesn't typically have, but that build did. So I think given all those things, yeah, so the person who suggested Aniel Yahi, but yeah, still think blue-white's gonna be better. Still happy we played this, but I would stick towards blue-white if we're trying to go more budget with that build we had. Esper felt like the mana was just way worse, and that was costing us a lot. You saw how many times it was really costly, and how much life we had to pay fetching. Kaya's Guile was really good. I did like Kaya's Guile, but overall, I don't think the black helped us enough. I did like Eliminate, but yeah, I think overall I would stick to blue-white. If I'm gonna play like a more budget version. I think realistically the best place to go with these decks right now is Bant, or go play Sultai or Temur or any of those things. But I think I'd rather be Bant if I was going to be blue-white based. But that one is just way too expensive with how expensive Uro is, and you need Misty, and even Breeding Pool is like pretty expensive right now. A lot of us aren't playing Ice Fang Kotal, but that's still a kind of expensive card. So I think I'd go blue-white. I think I'd go with the Geists over the Mentors, and I think I did like the plan of having Snow Basics and On Thin Ice. I actually like that quite a bit. I do think I'd probably go back to that. So yeah, overall like the deck. But yeah, with that, remember if you guys want to send me a deck list and have me do the same thing where I kind of do a test out series of like what you're working with and see what I can come up with for your budget or the card pool you have. I'm always happy to do that. I won't do it if you send me just a garbage card pool that you just can't win with, and it's more of a joke. But if it's a serious inquiry and you want to see me test something, I'm more than happy to do that. So please feel free to leave a comment with like a list you want to see, and I'll I'll happily build something, test something out, and do that for everybody. And remember, if you like this video and want to see me do more of them, leave a like. It helps us. Subscribe to the channel. It always helps us. And yeah, with that, I'll talk to everybody next time.